Howdy, folks. I'm your host, Michael, and we got a bonus episode for you today. I obviously went hunting in September, and I put down my first archery elk. The way that I wanted to kind of tell that story was to get all the guys that were in camp and let us all just reminisce on the amazing week that we all had together. So today, we have Pat Littrell on the podcast. We have Jermaine Hodge on the podcast. You got my ass telling more story than I actually feel comfortable doing, but that's okay. And then, of course, we have Armando Martinez of the Bow Hitch as kind of our bonus host or co-host or guest host, or however you want to word it. Either ways, guys, that's all there is today is just kind of recapping how September went for us, having some fun, having some drinks, swearing a little bit. So if you don't like swearing, this may not be the best episode for you, but it's just how it is because we were feeling the camp vibes. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you haven't already, give Pat and Jermaine and the Bow Hitch all follows on Instagram. Check out what they're doing. They're all up to some crazy stuff. I put links to everything in the show notes. But that's it, guys. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off. All right, fellas. Welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. How you guys doing?
Wonderful, brother. Let's go. Let's go.
Man.
Yeah, man. Let's do this thing. All right. That's how I start every podcast. It doesn't work as well when I've got a bunch of fellas on the line here. But, man, we're here to tell the story of my first archery elk. And because of that, we've got a special guest on the podcast today, someone who we're going to be telling the story to. Usually I'm the person trying to stay out of the way and keep the story straight. Today we have Armando. Armando, why don't you introduce yourself? You've been on the podcast before, but why don't you introduce yourself to the folks?
Sure, guys. My name's Armando Martinez. Pleasure to be here. I'm going to be moderating this mess we're about to have with each other. Just to let you know, we already did a cheers amongst the four of us. We're inviting you into camp with us. We're talking stories. I'm going to call out some bullshit if I hear it. And
there we go.
We're gonna hear it, and I don't want these guys to say no, that's not what happened. We're gonna hear one guy's side of the story, and then we'll hear the other, and you guys decide for yourself what actually happened. How about that?
Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, Armando, I'm glad to have you. Let's go next to Patrick Littrell. You've never been on the podcast before. Why don't you introduce yourself, buddy?
I am Pat. I follow Jermaine around.
He is the Robin to Jermaine's Batman. We can say that.
Yes, I try to be that. I try to be that guy.
No, Pat, come on, give yourself a little credit. Give yourself some due.
Hey, I'll be honest. I am though. Jermaine's my hunting partner, my battle buddy. He's taught me everything about hunting. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, a lot of my adventures and a lot of animals on my wall. Are on the wall because of the guy I hunt with. So, the success I've had on my own, it's been limited because of the amount of time I'm always trying to be in the woods with my brothers. So, I have to give him mad props and I got to give him credit because, without him, I wouldn't, like I said, have the success that I have had, especially with elk calling and that'd be in a whole new world as well too. So I'm not new to hunting, but, hey, with our little education company of Colorado Altitude Hunters, it's been an adventure the last 6 years. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, all that is very true. But you're selling yourself a little short still, and you did a little something this past year. What did you do?
I won the 2023 Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's men's division elk calling championship. So
There we go.
That did happen in July in Montana, Big Sky, Montana. So. Very lucky, blessed, happy, and again, a lot of that's due to my mentor helping me learn how to do that, how to talk to elk in the woods, and how to do it on the stage as well too. So, cool. Like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today, at least in the hunting world, without my brother Jermaine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with everything you're saying there. But you are something special yourself. I saw you fall harder than anyone I've ever seen fall, and you got up and kept going, man, during this hunting season. So you're more than you're giving yourself credit for.
I remember that. I remember following with Jermaine. I fell with you too.
You fell twice. Okay, I didn't see. Hey, well.
Oh man, I ate it bad with Jermaine up on that Overlook Rock. Ooh.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. We're talking about when we came.
It was raining.
Down from.
Oh, it was so bad. So bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jermaine, why don't you introduce yourself if Pat hasn't already?
I think you've done enough for me. I appreciate it, Pat.
Hey man, I gotta give props to my brother.
Michael, I think a lot of the viewers probably already know me. My name is Jermaine Hodge, originally from North Carolina, and I think what am I, number 7 or 6 of your first
episode
7.
7. And currently
And,
second most downloads. So everyone listening, go listen to his if you haven't. Let's get Jermaine to number 1. Armando, you're number 4. So let's also get people on there for Armando's episode.
There you go.
I appreciate everybody, but honestly, elk hunting is what I love to do. I love to do a lot of different hunts, but elk hunting is what I love to do, and hopefully some of these stories tonight inspire you to kind of get behind your fitness, get behind your elk calling, get behind the game, so you can improve yourself in the woods, and not only that, learn a little bit about yourself.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Hopefully we have a lot of fun here. I don't know why we wouldn't, considering how much fun we had during elk season, but I'm going to kick this thing off. Normally I don't get to tell too many of the stories, but we're going to start this one off with when I tricked Jermaine basically into bringing me into hunting camp, because I've told this to Pat. I may have told this to Jermaine, but like, hunting camp is a very sacred thing to me. I don't just invite anyone into camp, and the fact that you invited me to camp meant a lot to me. But we're going to go back to when we recorded episode 7. So this is over a year ago, right?
Right.
We recorded for like 4 hours. It took me a long time to edit that episode down to like an hour and a half. Either way, when it got all said and done, we were talking about units I didn't draw and just miscellaneous elk hunting stuff. We were just having a good time. I think you had probably 10 blue moons while we were talking.
Oh, hey, yes, I had plenty. But what I will tell you is this, is during the 4 hours, even though you're talking to somebody on the phone, you start to learn each other, and you start, kind of learning something about somebody and their passion with it. And I felt that with you. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'd invite this dude to camp any day. And there it is.
I appreciate that.
That's the reason why Michael was at camp.
I appreciate that, Jermaine. Well, so basically, I told you what units I put in for, and I had no reason to pick these units other than I didn't want to fall into the limbo of, like, in Colorado, past 8 points to like 20 points. There's nothing. So I was like, I got to use these points. So I found a unit, picked it. Next thing I know, you're telling me that's my unit. That's my unit.
That's mine. That's the one I hunt.
And so Jermaine, being the generous man that he is, says, hey, if you draw that unit next year, I will take you out. And I'll tell you what, I wrote that shit down because I was like, this guy's won the World Elk Calling Championships. I was like, I had too much to drink too. Never mind Jermaine having too much to drink. I had too much to drink. I was like, I'm not gonna forget this. So, whatever. I come to the Western Hunt Fest wearing the shirt today. Show up, get you some. I think Jermaine brought you a bottle of whiskey. Armando brought you a bottle of wine. I was just happy to know you guys. I was thankful for you guys for helping me kick this podcast off because you guys are.
Wasn't it Eagle Rare?
You were there, Pat. Yeah, you drank at least half that bottle of whiskey.
What was
it? Was Eagle Rare. It was.
It was Eagle Rare, yeah.
Yep. So, you guys are beyond the caliber of what I deserved as a brand new podcaster. So thank you guys. I just wanted to thank you guys. But next thing you know, Jermaine, I draw the tag. I hit you up and I'm like, hey, remember me? Remember me? And I think the first thing I said to you was like, when we last time we talked, you promised this. And I'm not going to hold you to it because I know how much you had to drink, but I would love to hunt with you because I got this tag. And you were like, let's go. Yep. And we immediately jumped on some phone calls. We immediately started sharing pins, and I started planning trips because at this point, once I lived in Colorado and I drew in Colorado, and then I moved to Texas. So I had planned a trip up. I was like, I'm going to go scouting. You're going scouting. We're putting up cameras, and it was everything I could have hoped for. It was awesome. So thank you for just keeping your word, man.
Oh man, no, that's the least I could have done. I honestly, I'm so happy that this hunt happened because not only did I already knew you were gonna be good at, a good person at camp and stuff like that, but during the time that I was there to help out, you were all open ears, and you know that's maturity, because if you don't have somebody that pays attention to certain things, then they won't learn. If they know it all, then they never learn anything. They just know it all, right? But if you have a person that says, I'm going to learn every day that I'm here, whether this happens or not, and then I'm going to take the best from whatever this comes out to be, and you were just a sponge soaking it all in, and I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, man. Okay. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Either way, let's fast forward a little bit, because I want to start getting you guys involved with some of this story. That was just me tricking Jermaine into bringing me along. So now we come to hunting camp, and so Jermaine's like, "Hey, my buddy Pat drew a tag. So Pat, you got a tag for the same unit, and
I didn't draw
be there." Well, okay, potato, right? Yeah, you found it in the leftover draw, or the what is it called? What is that draw?
Preview, called? Limited. It's that transition where the tags go from preview to the leftover, and you gotta be the fastest clicker, and I was the fastest clicker.
Yeah, he's the fastest clicker in the West, man.
And I've actually gotten that tag twice doing that, so I do have to brag about that. I'm a fast clicker.
No. Yeah, your wife loves you for that. Where were we? Okay, yeah. So either way, Jermaine's like, I can't come up till the 4th or whatever. The season starts on the 2nd. He's got work. He's like, but my boy Pat will be there. So I'm like, well, if Pat's hunting, I'm hunting. Like, I don't need to acclimate anymore. Let's just get up there and get going. So I roll into camp. And man, I mean, we met 5 minutes before that. Like, what were you thinking when I rolled in, man?
It's Michael, yay!
Armando, go.
Let's get this set up. So you guys are hunting in Colorado, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're hunting in Colorado, and then the other question that I had is, what's camp? You pull into camp. What is camp? Where are you at? You're in the forest. You guys in a tent? You got a camper? Or what are you walking into?
Well, I could tell you camp, how it got picked was just complete random of availability. We have a couple spots, or we have a spot that we like to set up camp, and we have the last couple of years we've had buddies get the same tag. I was lucky last year to pick it up on the leftover, and then Jermaine also had a tag last year. We filmed, his hunt, for Phelps and them. But this year we tried to get in that same location, but we had to just kind of take what was available. It was opening weekend. It was like Memorial Day weekend, I think is what it was. So we ended up picking a spot we've never camped at. It's very open, fairly close to one of the main drags or main roads that we would use to kind of hit different spots. So camp wasn't as traditional, but it was pretty open area, backdrop. You're looking east, so where the sun kind of comes up in the morning. Beautiful landscape, open area,
rolling hills of grass that kind of roll into what would be the elk territory. These big mountains.
Yeah, and then you're able to kind of see some of the spots that we've gotten into. You can kind of see the ridges where I was able to kill last year, and Jermaine killed, and some other spots we've had a lot of success. And Jermaine's had success in the past. Was way before I even started hunting this area with him. So. It worked out great. Open area for Starlink later, but it was just a good camp. The only thing that sucked about it was that people always drove down it because it was a dead end. They drive down with their little dirt bikes and 4-wheelers and turn around and dust up the area a little bit. But it is what it is. We made it work. We kept that spot for the entire season.
So you set up camp then, Pat?
Well, I just set up my camper. I just pulled my camper in. And,
okay.
And then we have some other guys that have been a part of the camp even well longer than I've ever been a part of the camp. That they came in and set up their tags. We had a good friend named Eidelberg who, set up he traditionally stays in a tent, has camp kitchen, stuff like that. And then, Bird. And then of course, Jermaine usually would set up a tent as well. But I've been talking and working on him over the years to stay in the camper. So he's turning slowly into a glamper now, kind of.
That's what happens when you invite him into your bed in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. when it's nice and warm in there.
He likes the furnace, and he'll actually be borrowing the camper for this another upcoming hunt. So
There you
That's
go.
funny. That's
All
funny,
right.
man.
So okay, so you roll into camp and you go in and you're gonna meet this guy. You shook his hand once.
yeah,
Basically.
that was
All
it.
right.
I actually, yeah, shook his hand once. The Western Hunt Fest, is that what it was? Western Hunt Fest we were at.
Yeah.
The very first.
If you
the very
even
first
remember it,
event.
because you drank half that bottle of whiskey.
It was me, Jesse, and Jermaine. Yeah, we definitely hanging out. But yeah, Mike, when I first met Mike, he was down to earth, really, open guy. We hit it off right away. Funny, just respectful. Expressed his value. And just happy to be a part of the camp. And we validated that and mealed and went to bed and hit it hard the next morning. And that's kind of what we did with me, Michael, and our camera guy. So
yeah, man. So day one, we get out there, we hike, we get into the main spot, which I know that Jermaine's mentioned the name that he's called it, and it's not going to burn anything, but Serena's Hill.
Serena's Hill, that's his wife.
He said that on his podcast, and that you're not going to find that on any map, so we're not going to burn nothing here.
Definitely not going to find that on any maps.
Yeah. So we roll into Serena's Hill and crickets, right?
It was really quiet. It was one of those spots when we wanted to check. We actually had some cameras in there, and we saw some good bulls early, a couple weeks, even up to a week before the season started. So we wanted to get in there and check it. And that's kind of what we did the first couple of days. Jermaine always wants to brag about wanting to win, put Jermaine Hodge in, but I'm just saying it took a little bit of pre-scouting to find the elk, and then I was able to hand it off. But anyway, we went to Serena's Hill and we started heading up and got up high and worked even back to what we call Jurassic Park. We worked a little bit of that as well. Did the big loop, came all the way down. Wasn't a lot of fresh sign in there, and then we didn't hear anything. So we definitely had to change our game for the evening hunt. But that was a good about 5-6 mile loop. We did.
Yeah.
Pretty good for opening.
We put in some grouse scared the shit out of us, but other than that, it was uneventful.
Yep.
Other than you needing some like blister band-aids. But okay, we're gonna move on. So
we're
like, all right, we go back to camp midday. We're like, all right, let's find something more interesting. You take us to a place that you guys call back camp. Mm-hmm. Again, not burning anything, just what you guys call it. We get back there and we're walking. What happens?
Was that when the one sounded off?
That was King Big Balls, my guy.
Oh yeah, big boy. Yeah. So again, pretty quiet. And we kind of work over a nice little saddle and it drops into these big drainages, kind of really moosey area. And I know from previous hunts that's an area that we've seen a lot of elk, especially just coming out naturally and just kind of feeding and watering. And I think we got to the top of the hill and I just our normal, cow call, bugle. He sounds off. We look out there and he's a big 6x7. I think we counted with a gnarly end of one of his horns was all
let me slow you down. So we hear him ripping, right? We hear ripping. Yeah. So we all get in place. Maybe we should have thought more about this because he was 500 yards away and we set up across a giant field, right? There's no way he's coming. We could see him. He's in the field. He's 500 yards away and he's ripping and we're all talking and we're like, well, he's got this massive left side, right? And his right side, we're like, no, it's broken off. He broke off his right side. I'm like, well, that doesn't make much sense because it's September 2nd. Like he's not sparring yet. Why would that thing be broken off?
Yeah, a little spike running.
Yeah, and there's a spike running with him. So we don't really know what's going on. We're like, this is a weird looking bull. So I dropped down into the opening of the valley. The camera guy's with me. You're up there just ripping bugles, trying to get in him, and he's responding. He's calling back. He's having a good time. But when we get better eyes on him, it's that right side is like a moose paddle almost, right? It's super thick. And like at one point, what, 8?
It's palmated.
Palmated, yeah. So it's a super unique, like it's two I would almost want to say 2 feet shorter than on the left side, but it's just as big. Like he was a monster. Just a monster. And he was having fun ripping back at us, but he never really made any movement towards us.
was trying to look at the picture of him. It's like you can kind of see it. No, you can't see it.
No,
Yeah,
I'll put it on. Send it to me. We'll put it on Instagram. We're not using the video for anything, anyways.
Okay. Yeah, big boy. We did try to make a quick move, and I think if we had just a little more, it was like last light. We saw him start to move off slowly. I don't know if he just didn't like. I think I started seeing him sound off when I started raking a little bit, just trying to get him going. He just wasn't having it. The wind, we had good wind, so I know he didn't see us or smell us, but we tried to make a play and cross the creek, get down below him. Based on what the thermals were doing, and we tried to cut him off, very similar to what we did on the success of your hunt on your kill. And we got close. I think we heard the spike, but like I said, we just lost light. So we figured, hey, we back out, and try to get back on him the next day. And that's kind of the game we tried to play. But again, very early, and we did kind of.
Was that still the? Of course, for everybody that doesn't know that, I was not there until the 4th of September. So what
he's like, an elk didn't die. Just make sure I wasn't there. Everyone knows.
Yeah,
Jermaine Hodge wasn't there. That elk would have died.
What date was this? Was this opening?
Opening day.
Opening evening.
Nice.
So right the first day, we got lucky as we went from one extreme to the other, from one side of the unit to the other. Well, not the unit, but to back camp. And that's kind of when we started realizing how back camp was really on fire the whole season.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we go back to camp. We hike back in the dark. We get back to camp. Pat makes me easily the worst taco I've ever had in my life.
What? That was not a bad taco.
it was so
Come
bad.
on, Pat.
Like
Pat.
you didn't even take the grease out of the pan. You were like, here's a tortilla. I'm not even gonna warm it up. I'm gonna throw a bunch of beef in there. It's gonna grease all over you. I'm sorry, Pat.
Good.
I've been holding that one tight, close to the chest until now. But
tacos in camp or burritos in camp, it just doesn't work good. I'm just letting you know. Armando might have something else to say about it, but I'm gonna tell you right now. For me, no, man.
I need that grease. Especially with all the miles we do.
That grease loops me up, and that's where the problem lies, right? So I'm gonna tell you, right? I was sitting there. I'm just like, my hands covered.
All right. No more tacos for camp. I get it.
No. We could do tacos. Let's just put a little more love and care into those tacos, Pat. And I will say, Pat cooked some real good meals throughout camp. But the tacos that night after the night before, I cooked you filet mignon with potatoes and onions. Like that was pretty good.
It was all right. Yeah,
you took a hard left to your tacos. But we're gonna go on to day two.
I'm glad you helped me remember all this stuff. Ah, man. Okay. I suck at tacos.
No.
All right. Point. I remember.
You don't suck at tacos. You just had a bad day.
It's tired.
Day 2. We go up to the top of this pass and we hike all goddamn day. And nothing. We don't see any hunters. We don't see any elk.
Oh, yes. Okay.
We don't see anything. I won't name the pass because, again, I don't want to burn the spot. But I will say that Pat put me through one of the most – it just sucked. That day sucked. You took us through every patch of bear brush you could possibly take us through. You took us every
bear brush.
patch of like baby aspens where the trees are 1 foot apart, and I'm not a 1 foot apart kind of guy. That was a tough morning.
Well, again, like I said, we knew where elk were. So we weren't leaving out to find elk, but we knew that back camp was a good spot, especially for evening. Eventually you'll go back to back camp and you'll kill your bull in the morning, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, we kind of know where that's at. We didn't see anyone really back there. It was kind of like, hey, I mean, my mindset was, hey, let's go check out another spot. We've gotten to a lot of elk. We've had even success in killing a lot of elk. Let's just check it off the list. So when I knew when Jermaine got there, this was my logic. When Jermaine got there, I want to give him as much intel. I want to give him as much intel as I possibly can. So that's kind of the reason why we hit that area on day 2 morning, knowing we had back camp in our back pocket for the next evening, which you almost killed then too. You almost killed there too. So we really stayed into, I don't even know what we want to call it. Just the pass, right? We'll call it the pass.
Yeah, we'll call it the pass.
So kind of pass. And I really wanted to dive in there deep, stay high. Wasn't a lot of sign. Usually that place is on fire, especially early. And we even dropped down and Started working the lower stuff too. We gave it some time to pass, let the thermals change, drop back down really low. And that's when we got into that nasty aspen patch. We were actually down almost below where Brad killed. And from years past, Jermaine, but worked that whole area. Like I said, right where a lot of elk are always see a good sign and stuff, especially on the other side of that aspen patch. But we ended up having a ball out of there. That was another good 5+ mile day morning.
5 mile morning. And this is actually, Jermaine mentioned something, and this is where the first time I heard it, which is we've been going for a few hours, 5+ miles, and you look at your phone and you go, God damn it. And then you're like, Jermaine just said, it's okay. It's okay that you're not seeing anything. Because if you want to win, you put Jermaine in. That was a text. That was a text that Pat got.
What's that text I got?
That's Friday Night Lights. That's Friday Night Lights.
Want to win? Put Booby in.
Yeah. You want to win? Put Booby in? No, you want to win? You would put Hodge in.
First year we went to World Elk Calling Championships 2019. We had shirts made for Koha, and on the back of his shirt, he said, "Mine's got to say you want to win, put Hodge in." And he ended up winning and wearing that shirt too. So the saying is gold. The saying is gold.
Yeah, you were like, "That's pretty good." You're like, "You that son of a bitch!" Like I can't. You're like, but he's probably right.
No, he's not right. We would have got it done if he couldn't make it. I had you, dude. We were checking boxes. You almost
either way.
That evening, the night of day 2, you almost got it done.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, then, so we get out of the pass. We head back to camp. We're like, all right, let's go back to back camp. We named him. I wanted to name him King something. You want to name him something with balls. So we named him King Big Balls.
I don't know.
We were like, let's go back, have a look at King Big Balls. Pat,
he's big boy. He's big boy.
Yeah. What happened on day 2?
Well, from what I recall, is we just basically we got in there earlier, so that way we gave ourselves some more time. Because, like I said, last time we were in there was like last light when we were getting to that one spot, because we really worked the terrain way before we got to what we call like our lookout point. And I think we even saw. We walked up on an elk. Just kind of
we walked up on 3 elk. We were walking in.
Yeah, we didn't do any setups or dry setups. We
hearing nothing. Yeah, we walked in on just like a raghorn and like 2 cows, right?
Just standing there, like almost like they were standing, sleeping. It was weird. They weren't moving. I've seen stuff like that before on another spot where we walked past a cow just like at 70 yards and wind was good. She didn't smell us or see us, but just standing there like a ghost, like didn't even move or nothing. It was really, really weird. So a lot of elk in there though. We just bypassed him because he was little. He did eventually move off, and then we just kind of worked back to that same lookout where we saw a plethora of animals hanging out.
Oh my God. I've never seen more animals in my life in one particular draw.
Yeah, we had Jermaine's big moose was hanging out in there, that big cow. It was a cow with a calf. But the calf was like huge. Like it was
huge
much
calf, like full grown.
It was
like that cow was massive. And then beyond that, then we were looking into the draw and we see like a bull and like 3 or 4 cows.
Yeah, elk, and then I think about 7 or 8 cows came out above them. So a lot of elk, and obviously we had good wind. And I didn't call this time. We came with the plan. I was like, hey, just get out there, work up on, use the terrain. You and our cameraman Zach went out there and started working a bull, and it was exciting. So I think it was me and Jared. Sat back and kind of commentated and watched the whole thing kind of unplaying and unfolding. And the bull had kind of worked to the far right, where our other plan was maybe move around the right and try to drop it on, but the wind was, the thermals were coming down, so that wouldn't have worked at all for us. So kind of what we did was kind of the best play, and I believe it or not, I felt like you would have killed that elk. Which was he was a nice he was a bigger 5x4.
Yeah.
5x5,
5x4. Yeah.
Definitely a shooter. I would have shot him. Jermaine may not have, but I definitely would have shot him. But you were working that bull and just kind of just working in closer and closer. And
well, let's go into a little bit more detail, right? So like this draw is 200 yards across and a mile long. So it's a big open draw. and it is swampy.
It's more than a mile.
Yeah.
Oh, it's more than a mile.
Well, no, just a mile until it turns left, right? It goes way more than a mile.
Turns left, yes.
But a
Miles where
mile
you
as far as you can see.
Yeah,
And then
miles
who
where you can
knows
see,
from there.
And then it goes by
Right. So at the
3-4
top,
miles.
there's a whole herd of cows. And
Yeah.
then to the left of the little stream that runs down the middle is the bull, moose, and the cow.
Yep.
To the right of the river is the elk and the like 3 or 4 cows. So we're like, well, let's go. Let's be aggressive. So me and Zach, we just go straight. Like we're not gonna go any that bear brush is tall enough. We can hide a little bit. So we just go straight to the bull. And it's probably 500 yards, you'd say?
Yeah, I mean, you guys worked in. I know. I think you worked in within more than 70 yards, 80 yards of the elk or the bull.
Yeah. I think the last time I ranged him, I was at like 80 or so.
Which was really interesting because Jared and I were sitting there watching this. We're sitting just watching. We have film footage of it and everything on our phones and stuff like that. We actually were able to get still close enough to get good footage. But we're watching. You walked right by a cow that you had no idea was there, and she didn't even get up. And then Zach eventually will walk by the same cow, and then that cow will bust but you were already like super, super close. And I'm just jumping right to it. Like we're watching this whole thing play out. And then I just see like this huge, big black animal coming from right behind where this big like cow and this bull is. And I'm looking up and I'm like, oh my God, that's that stupid moose and its calf are like walking in right on this bull. And they scare the crap out of the bull. The bull freaks out. The cow busts. The bull runs up the hill. And I'm just sitting there watching going, I can't believe I'm watching all this. That same cow that was way over here to the left did a big freaking loop and came all the way back around as you were working to close ground on that bull, and just it ruined the whole thing for you. And then, of course, that's when I started calling to try to see if I could bring him back and maybe get a shot. I don't know. But that's when we had like this barking competition between me and this other cow and a calf that were all separated. And it was just awkward. It was a really awkward situation.
It was
Hey,
crazy.
Michael,
It was crazy. Yes, sir.
Let me interrupt real quick. You mentioned a cameraman.
Yeah.
What's the cameraman recording for?
I'll let Pat or Jermaine throw that one.
They were just basically gathering footage for us because we're just trying to get as much good footage as we can for Colorado Altitude hunters and stuff like that. So there wasn't any other purpose other than just getting some good footage for us. We have a really good editor and main cameraman that does a great job in producing film. He did our last film for us. So we're just, like I said, trying to get as much good footage for him to maybe put something together for us for our own socials. So that's kind of what we were using the camera for.
Michael, had you ever hunted with the cameraman before?
No.
Okay. So totally different, right? I mean, it's a different ball game.
But I'll also tell you, this cameraman had never cameramaned before. So we were like, whatever. Let's think. Tim and I were like, let's just keep moving forward. Neither one of us had a clue what to do.
But he did a great job. He got a lot. Yes, he is a hunter. Yes. And
okay.
He stepped in for 3 days, and he did a great job. He did a really good job for us, and got good footage. Got a lot of elk on footage. Even when Jermaine showed up, got even more elk on camera. So he had a lot more success than me being cameraman, especially more than Jermaine being cameraman. Jermaine's the worst cameraman ever. That dude can't film anything.
I'm not.
But Armando, man, we got some footage. We got some footage of. My friend, my hunting buddy Jared got some footage, and Pat got some cell phone footage of them like literally zooming in on me with a cow elk like 30 yards to my left.
Yeah, she was coming in
no
hard.
No idea. And they're like, wow. Oh no. Like it's the commentary. I'm gonna hopefully we'll see. I'll post it on Instagram or something. But hilarious footage. Also, one of my favorite parts of the entire day was like Pat had a mic on him. I had a mic on me. And Pat was so worried about what he said in that mic because he forgot that he had the mic on him. So he's like, I hope I didn't say anything. They're like, I don't know. I hope I didn't insult Jermaine because Jermaine's not there. He's like, Jermaine's going to watch this footage. And, oh, man. God, it was so funny.
This is my worry was. I was like, I wonder how Jermaine would have handled this how he would have like approached the situation. I was like, would he have let Michael go out there and not try to call in this bull? I'm like, I don't think so. I think Jermaine would have tried to call him in and try to work him, and maybe it'd have been too aggressive. I don't know. And I was like, oh crap, is this thing recording? And I was so I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that's
Delete.
Hey, tough story, guys. We lost all the footage. He didn't push record.
Right.
Because of how
Same
far,
story.
we found out because of how far they were away. A lot of the stuff, even with the funny commentary about
Didn't
like,
work.
oh no, here comes the moose. Oh no, there's a cow. Oh god, they don't
Yeah.
see the cow. The funny
All
stuff
right.
we were saying.
Sorry, guys. I just wanted to clarify what this guy was
Yeah.
recording for. If he had any
Right.
skills,
No, man, it's good.
kind of to get the picture here. So this guy's basically just following you, and he's trying to record best he can. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Literally, I turn around every like 50 yards, and I'm like, I don't know.
You okay?
Like,
What
should
you
I keep
do?
going? Can you see? Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, I don't know. And so
They
we
look
both
back.
just
They
keep
look back,
pushing
and I'd
forward.
go.
Wow, we can't see you. We're too far at this point. We're like hundreds of yards from you, but we're just like, I don't know. Like the bull's still there. The cows can't see us. And the next thing we know, that one cow spooks from the side, which again,
Yeah.
we have hilarious footage of Pat and my buddy Jared just being like, no, she's right there. Because they're slightly elevated. They can see everything.
Nice.
And they're
yeah.
having a great time. They're just laughing in these videos.
Hey, we got into elk though in a day.
We got into
2
elk.
days.
We got into elk.
You know, we
yeah,
had some
and
death.
never mind you. I
death
get to
markers.
70 yards on this bull, and that's when the moose came in from the back,
Yes.
spooked
Okay.
the bull, pushed the cow to the other side of this little creek, and all of a sudden I'm in dead center of 4 cows barking for like 30 minutes.
Yes,
It was
well,
super
One
cool.
of those were me. One of those were me.
Okay, so 3 elk barking, and
I've
Pat-
never heard more barking in my entire life. Well, because that one cow that busted was like a calf, and it was talking to Mama. Mama was way over on this side, and I was talking, and another cows on the other ridge were talking. So that was the most barks I've ever heard or ever been a part of in my entire life. I usually hear like 1 or 2, or we'll bark to stop an elk. My God, we got that all on footage, and that was a
30
crazy
minutes.
barking.
It was 30
Yeah.
minutes of barking. Never
Barking.
mind the 15 other animals that were there. There were
They
at
just-
least
everyone's
2
barking.
moose, at least 3 moose. There was 2 cow moose and one calf, and then a whole nother herd of elk up at the top of the draw.
And they were
And
barking.
so we're just sitting
They
there
were barking.
barking.
Jermaine
and
would have been
just-
proud. We had a barking
Yeah.
competition, and I won.
Attaboy.
Whatever that means. Whatever that means. He did win. Pat won.
Hey, my bark's on point.
We do not. We really don't want to have a barking competition, but if we
I
do,
don't think that's what you want to win, right?
If you do, you better win.
Okay, either way, all right. So either way, we eventually, me and the camera guy stand up, walk out, and we laugh, and then we're like, "That was ridiculous." I didn't really want to shoot that bull anyways, because
I know.
it was. I wouldn't say it was a raghorn. It was like one step up from a raghorn. But if I'm hunting
Yeah.
with world elk calling champions, ideally I don't want to shoot a raghorn.
I get it.
We go back to camp.
Yep.
And as the
I
text
didn't make
said
tacos.
earlier in the day,
Didn't
if
make
you want to
tacos.
win,
You
you
gotta
put
put
Hodge in, and that guy showed up that evening.
Was it that evening or that morning?
the morning.
Was that
the
morning? Yeah.
It stood up the morning because you fed us your filet mignons or
No, I think it
steak.
was maybe jambalaya that night or something.
It was only night 2. It was night 2. I
See,
think.
this is when I
Yeah.
is when I interject. I don't know what really happened that night. I
Mm-hmm.
do know what text I sent out, and I said, "Boys, be ready." I said, "Let them boys know that, hey, I ain't playing no games. If you want to win, put Hodge in," and that's exactly what I told him. And Pat hits me with the damn. Oh, kind of, and then I planned to leave the house at a certain time, and I ran a little late because I had to stop at the gas station on the way in because I wanted to fill up. And then I got there around 5:15 to 5:20.
A little late start. Yeah, a little bit later.
Yeah, we actually were like, "Let's go. We're gonna go out and hunt," and we ended up hitting you out like 10 minutes out. No, maybe 5 minutes down the road. We ran into you and turned back to camp.
Yeah. So then I already had a plan of kind of where, based off the intel that I was already getting of where I wanted to go. And we went on this long journey road. I mean, this road is rocky, is all get out. And we get back to, I was explaining to these guys, I said, but I want to bugle my way back in because a lot of these old logging roads, they created, a lot of the ATVs and stuff can take them. And then, if you dare, like I do, take your truck in some of those areas, you can get into those roads. And then I wanted to hit some of the same areas they were hitting, but just some ridges over, and I wanted to bounce over and run this ridge line until we found them. And then I don't know. I said, well, I'm just taking a gamble, but based off the intel I already have, I kind of knew we were going to get into some elk. It's just a matter of, whether we're in the right place at the right time. And we got back into an area. We worked it, a couple call sequences, nothing. And then we get back to this little saddle, and we get one to sound off. Oh. And when we do get him to sound off, he sounds off like he's probably, 500-600 yards away. A little too far out of reach to call him in. But I was like, okay, we gather our info, we all come together. And by the time we start moving, one rips off, and he's like, hey, where y'all at? And it just doesn't sound like this. Like, to me, it doesn't sound like the same bull, but you never know. So at this point, we scattered like roaches. I mean, if you cut the kitchen light on, that's what we would do.
Hold on, Jermaine. Is this the one that we tried, or is this when it went crazy? Because we called in.
This is the one we tried.
Okay. Go ahead.
And we're getting ready to move in the location where this bull sounded off. I'm like, yeah, he sounded off over this way. Let's just move over in this location. Let's keep the wind in our favor. And then by the time we start moving, one sounds off and he's close. And I said, to me, in my brain, I'm like, this ain't the same damn bull. But you never know. And I'm like, hell. And we all scattered like roaches because it happened so damn fast. And I was like, what the shit? And I remember checking the.
Jermaine, I'm sorry. Is there 5 of you at this point? It's 3 of you, a cameraman and the other dude?
Yeah, it's 5 of us.
Yeah. One cameraman. That I actually carried my bow that day. Me, Michael, and then Jared came. Yeah, those 5 of us.
Yeah,
okay, sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
and Jared was kind of filming his camera, his little phone.
And another thing people kind of shy away from is like, it doesn't matter. Like I could take 10, 15 guys in the woods. If the wind's not right, the and the elk's going to smell us, right?
Sure,
but it doesn't really matter. So we got 5 guys out there, and I'm just going to make sure I do everything possible in my power to make sure that the wind's right and we can get these elk to come in. And sure enough, this bull plays the game. He calls, he's right there. And I hear
sticks cracking. He's 70 yards, if not closer. I can't see him, but I can hear him.
He's super close. And I just remember when I checked the wind one other time, I felt that wind change. And it's getting not super late in the morning, probably 8-ish. I can't remember exact time, like maybe 7:30, 8-ish. And I felt the wind hit the back of my neck and start blowing straight towards that elk. And I'm like, wow, that elk shut completely up. But I walked over to Michael and we all came together and I was like, I don't think that was the same elk. I said, let's just head towards where we heard those elk on that one elk and let's just see what happens. So we start side hilling. We let that elk go by. It didn't really sound like a big bull anyways. And we let that elk go by, and I told Pat, I said, just set up.
Jermaine, I want to pause you for a second. I
Go
want to throw
ahead.
something out there real quick. Jermaine is one shade off from a professional athlete, and he shows up fresh, real fresh. Like this is important. This is important. Like Pat and I, we are 230 plus each. And Jermaine, what are you? 140?
145.
Yeah. Okay. So
not right now.
No, I'm probably 130-ish.
Not right now. You ain't that.
Yeah. So Jermaine shows up fresh. While Pat and I had put in 22 miles in the first 2 days or something like that, something crazy.
2 days.
And Jermaine's like, all right, guys, let's go. So never mind the fact this is for you, Armando. Like I remember the first morning hiking up, all I see is mountain and Jermaine's ass. Because I am trying to keep up with him. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, God bless the bow hitch. Because I am not keeping up with this man if I'm keeping the bow in my hand. And like, this isn't a pitch, guys. This isn't me soliciting. This is me literally being like, carrying your bow sucks. It sucks, especially when you're trying to keep up with Jermaine Hodge.
Hey, and I think we also need to say there's a lot of professional athletes and they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. What kind of professional athlete are you, Jermaine? I think this is important.
Well, I could tell you this is even like for me, like carrying that damn bow in your right or left hand, or whatever hand you prefer, on your neck, whatever. That it gets tiring. And I don't at this point for the listeners, I don't have to carry my bow. I'm just helping. I just want to make sure we get elk coming in so these guys get an opportunity. So yes, you're right. I come off the gate ripping. But I also Pat also, I think he warned y'all guys. If he didn't warn y'all, shame on him. And
I warned him.
He warned us about how hard you would hike us, but more so, he's like, when Jermaine calls, you don't talk. When Jermaine does this,
you shut up. Yeah.
He's like, you shut up, you sit down. If he makes this look at you, and he's making this look at me, he's like, you better shut up. And I'm all right. I'm gonna shut up.
A couple things. Like if you see him walk forward 10 feet, because we're all stopped, you don't follow. He's just getting away from you because we're too loud.
Yep.
Oh, that's another thing. I know. So I tried to teach him.
So I have particular
Jermaine, that look.
Go ahead, Armando.
I can see Michael doing it on the thing. So that's head tilted a little bit to the left, and what my son would say is some bombastic side eye. Like you're looking at him like, do not fucking do that again. Do not. That's what came across with that look.
Yep.
Never mind you. This is just Pat telling me this look. Like I don't even know this look yet. This is just Pat being like, "This is coming your way. This is coming your way." So I'm all right.
Don't do that.
All right. So my goal of the entire trip was like, there's a couple of us out here. Like at any time, there's 4 of us, sometimes 5 of us, and I was like, all right, I ain't got to be the 5th one. I ain't got to be that guy that Jermaine is looking at. I'm gonna be the guy that's like, not quite as loud as that guy. That was my goal for the entire trip.
Don't be that. Don't be that guy. Yeah.
Well, I gotta rewind a little bit, not just for this story, but when you're out there in the elk woods and you're calling these elk, you learn to tune your ears into certain sounds. And it may be just a stick cracking, it may be just a moan, it may be just this little bitty cow sound. And when you start rustling in your pockets or messing with your bag, because this is that break I might need to get me some water. No, this is not the break that I'm giving you yet. This is the break of me listening. And I have friends, no names, Pat. That
whatever I have learned. I am
finds the moments to Oh my God, this is the only break he's given us so far. So I'm gonna dig through my pack. And
Yeah.
so
Oh my
Again,
God.
you're a
that's
professional
that's
athlete.
why the
Pat and I
crooked
are
eyes
not.
come. That's where the crooked eyes come, and I'm like, I need you to be quiet just for a second, because
Shut
even though
the
you're out
fuck
there,
up.
maybe maybe the wind's blowing or whatever, but I'm listening for these little bitty hints of sounds that no one else is paying attention to, that I'm paying attention to. And yeah, that's where I get that from. And yes, Pat has hunted with me for a few years, so he's learned. And he gave a warning. I'm glad you gave that warning.
Oh, dude, I
Um,
was giving them all the details. I was like, all right, this is what to expect. These are the do's and don'ts. I was like, wait till he bugles, and then an airplane flies by. Watch him freak out then too. Like, he's yelling at the airplane. I've seen this man have a complete
I can't stand it.
meltdown because the damn airplane just kept doing circles.
That's
So
hilarious.
so we bypass that elk and we start side hilling, and I'm like, hey, well, let's get into where I thought this elk sounded off. And sure enough, we get over there, and I set Pat back. I says, Pat, you stay back here. You cow talk with me. I'll be the only one that throws off any bugles. I said, just cow talk with me. And man, the whole hill lit up.
Oh, hell,
The whole hill lit up.
Well,
Next thing you know, we got
let's start this off real quick with the first bugle we hear. I'm just gonna say I point. I look at the camera guy. I look at Zach, and I'm like,
yes.
Where's that? I was like, where'd that come from? And he points. I'm gonna say northeast, and I'm like, well, you know what? I think northwest. So I point that way. Then I look at Jermaine. Now, mind you, Jermaine told me about 10 minutes ago, if we get an elk, get 30 yards in between me and wherever I point. So I'm like, all right. So again, camera guy, northeast. I point northwest. I look back at Jermaine. He's pointing southwest. Like, what? Like, now we have no idea. So
Hey,
go ahead.
so that bull, Michael, that we passed and we left alone, I heard him up at the top. He bugles. Now remind you, the listeners, we got a couple different bugles going on.
Yeah, it was a couple of them.
Well, not at this point. We had the one, and we were all
We
pointing
had
different
one.
directions.
We had
And
one.
so what I do? I run my ass straight to you because I'm like, Jermaine says 30 yards, whatever direction I'm going. So I'm like, I'm running that way. I'm running southwest, just like Jermaine said.
Yep.
So I run up to Jermaine, and the next thing that happens is the craziest shit that has ever happened to me in the woods. I don't know about you boys.
I was above you, so I got to actually see it. I don't think you guys saw what I saw, but
So I get to Jermaine, and as you can imagine, Jermaine's 140. I'm 240. I'm not just a big fat guy. I'm a fair amount taller than Jermaine. So I can see right over Jermaine. And 3 bulls come charging into us. The first one stops. The next 2 run into him.
10 yards
that
from you
bull,
guys, maybe?
like 10 yards. 10 yards, basically directly behind Jermaine. And so the first one stops when it sees something. Who knows what? And the other 2 pile up on top of it. So 3 elk are piled up on top of each other.
What you didn't see was when the first bull stopped, the second bull ran his horns right into the first bull's ass. Possibly. And made him jump. And then the last bull come running in, and I didn't know if he hit him, but he got real close to running. It was like a traffic jam of elk. I think it was like 10 or 15 yards right next to you guys.
Yeah, it was like an elk centipede, basically, right? So they just pile up right next to us. The first one,
in between.
The first one then runs forward, and that's the one Jermaine sees. And Jermaine whispers to me, he's like, "Knock an arrow, shoot that bull." And I'm just looking at Jermaine, and I'm looking over Jermaine, and I'm going, "No,
I can't."
And he's like, "What do you mean you can't?" And I'm like, "There are 2 more bulls." And the one that ran forward was the smallest. So I'm like, looking at these big bulls, like probably 2 300-inch bulls. And maybe, like a 2, I don't know how to judge them. What am I saying? Either way, I'm like, I can't do it. And he's like, why? And I'm like, there are 2 bulls directly behind you. Directly behind you. It's Jermaine. You know, people can't see this, but
You were like,
all of a sudden he's standing
looking
real
at
tall and looking slowly to his left, trying to see these elk.
Like 10
And
yards.
I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, Jermaine. Coach me.
Yes. I cannot deny this. He says, I can't. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? I'm like, dude, this bull is right here. And he said,
Mind you, I couldn't see the bull that you could see. We're 3-4 feet apart. I couldn't see anything on that bull you told me to draw on.
Yep. And sure enough, the bull that was directly to my left is the one that Michael could see. And that bull was close to 300 inches. He was a nice bull.
Nice bull.
And so I'm slowly turning my head to see what he could see. And I go eyeball to eyeball with this elk. He's 10 yards. I'm like, holy smokes, this elk is right here in our lap. And then directly behind him, and this is accredited to the story that Pat was telling you, like the centipede of elk jam, right behind him was another bull, and I could barely see him out of corner, like my peripheral view. And I'm like, holy smokes, these elk are right on top of each other. And I was like, oh my God, we got 2 hunters here and we can't make a shot on any of these elk. And
I was like 30 yards.
happened.
I was 30 yards up, but I was just slightly behind you guys. So I could have drawn, but then I would have had to shoot right past you guys. So I was like, nah, I didn't draw my bow. But yeah, we both were like worst case scenario in the whole scenario, like it all.
Yeah. We got 3 bulls in 10 yards and we can't pull the trigger.
2 guys with bows, 3 nice bulls right there. And it was just,
Yeah,
So-
either way, they all bust. They all bust, right?
They all bust out. And then, you know what's funny, Armando, is they bust out, but they have no clue, like, what we were.
They didn't smell us.
They had no clue. Literally minutes later, we start walking.
No, like 1 minute later.
Yeah, 1 minute later.
So I go from Jermaine back to my bag, which again was like 10 yards downhill. Because remember, Jermaine points, I go 30 yards that way. That's the rules he gave me. So I'm like, all right, well, I left my bag down there. I'm gonna go get my bag. So I drop down to the bag and I'm picking my bag up. And next thing I know, I'm getting hit in the face with a pine cone from our camera guy. He's throwing pine cones at me. There's another bull that came in silent. And so I turn around. This bull's like in the same spot as the other bulls. If Jermaine had a bow, Jermaine kills that bull. And this is a raghorn. Nothing great. It's just, but whatever. Pat, what are you doing at this moment?
Well, I moved down closer to Jermaine because I was like, well, I'm going to stand right next to Jermaine because if I'm standing next to Jermaine, I know elk are going to come to him. If not, if you can cut him off. So I'm standing literally like maybe 10 feet from Jermaine. And sure enough, I thought it was 2 bulls. Was it just one?
No, just the one that time at that
Just
point.
the one.
There's one more coming, but just that one right then.
Our bull comes down and he's at like 10 yards again. And I pull my bow. I go full draw. I look back at Jermaine. Jermaine's all excited. Yeah, get it right there. It's right there. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking. And all I have is like this little window like that. And it's just the black part or the dark part of his neck. So I'm like, I don't got no vitals yet. And he just needed to take like 3 more steps or like 2 more steps. And I would have had a nice shot. But he ended up busting and ran through my window. I could have sent it, but I was like, I just didn't want to wound an animal. But anyway, he ran up the hill. Jermaine stopped him, and I had no shot. And all of that was in the matter of minutes. It was just
2 minutes total, all of that. And never mind the fact if you had shot, I was on the opposite side of you, and all I could see was his guts. And I kept trying to rotate, but as I rotated, he rotated, and so I didn't have a shot on that bull either. So next thing I know, I'm dropping. Okay, go back to my bag because that was where I was going back in the first place. Everyone else is congregating because they're like, well, that was crazy. 4 bulls in 1 minute. Game over. Like, that was crazy. And I'm like, shut up. There's another bull. And I see a bull about 50 yards downhill. just chilling behind a bunch of brush. Like I could see his body, his head. I can't really see his antlers. I don't know. I just know it is a bull. But I'm like, shut up. Like trying to get everyone like from 20 yards away, trying to get everyone to like calm down because everyone's trying to pack out. And I'm like, no, there's another bull. So we had 5, Jermaine and Pat with this like double cow call bugle fest called in 5 bulls in like what, 4 minutes? It was absolutely crazy.
6 bulls. 6 bulls in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know what that was telling me right then? That all these bulls that are, you know, we talk about like the pre-rut, rut, and post-rut. It was telling me that the rut has not yet kicked off. And so I'm gathering all this information. I'm putting it all in my head. So just formulating a plan for futures, right? For the future hunts of the days in the future. Because if you could formulate this stuff prior to the next day, then you can come up with a good game plan going into the next day. But if you ain't gathering all this information and learning something from it, then you're just walking in the woods carrying your bow. But the whole time it was telling me that, all right, we're not in the swing of the rut yet.
Yep, that's the truth. By the way, so what? We pack out, we hike around the rest of the day.
Hold on. So all these bulls come in. I want to hear what kind of trash talking. Like, how did we not kill one of these 5 bulls? Who was talking shit? Tell me there. Somebody did.
I don't know. I honestly, we all kind of collectively gathered our head around everything, and this is just my side of the story, and they could tell theirs. But I collectively gathered my head around it, and I was like, wow, it should have been 1 bull killed out of that group, at least 1. But then once you look at the whole like scheme of things, you're like, there was no shot. There was no shot. Yeah, Pat could have slung one across us, but I would have been so mad at Pat. And then, he probably would have shot that bull, but that's not the ethical thing to do anyways.
Yeah.
It would have gotten right through that bull to me if he had shot that bull.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the right thing to do.
No, it wouldn't have been right. Cool. It was good ethical hunting, and you know, we could have forced some shots, but I think we did the right thing.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah.
By
the way, we hike from where we are at the top of the ridge down to the valley, and we see more sign than like I've been hunting elk for 8 years. I saw more sign at the bottom of that ridge coming down to that valley than I'd seen the other 7 years combined. It was absolutely crazy.
There's so many rubs. So many rubs,
scat, just everything you could possibly imagine. We hike out, and
that was all at back camp.
Hey, so check this out. Another thing too is on our way out, we see these spikes. It's about 10:30. We see 2 more spikes in the meadow, just chilling. Was it 2? Was it 3? Was it 3?
2 ran off, and then a smaller one.
Yeah, that's right. So we seen 3 more spikes out in the meadows.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so many elk that day, and then I get back to the truck. We get back to the truck after. Actually, hold on.
You're skipping a bunch of stuff. Remember, we found that giant pile of blood.
Yes, I didn't remind myself. We walked up on this saddle, and this saddle dives us down to the road, and the road we have to walk the road back, and we walk back to this, get up to the saddle, and literally right where we're gonna take a break, I see some blood. I'm like,
a lot of blood.
Somebody shot something up here. And being that it was only 2 days in the season, so we talking about the 4th of September. September 2nd is when season starts. I was like, wow, somebody shot something up here. So we took a break, and I kind of did a 360 round trip around to kind of look, see if I could find any more blood. The blood was very, very little past the point where we actually found some decent blood, but somebody had shot something up there, but I don't know if they found it or not. And the guys that we ran into up there definitely didn't shoot anything. So no, it was
weird.
it was weird. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Because
then,
I just
go ahead.
I just didn't see it. I would have never seen a bunch of people up there hunting, and of course that's a draw unit. So you talk about a certain amount of tags and kind of where we were. Like it had to be a special individual to be back there.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. We get out of there. We get to the road to get the truck, and Jermaine, remember, he's a professional fucking athlete and he's fresh. He's like, I'm just gonna run 2 miles up this road to the truck. You boys just sit here. And we're like, hell yeah. That's the best thing we've heard all day. You go ahead, sir. Go get the truck. We will wait right here. Next thing we know,
call you made all day.
Yeah, right. He's been calling elk in all day, and this is the best thing I heard. Either way, within 5 minutes of Jermaine being gone, a caravan of drunk, and I'm talking about drunk four-wheelers shows up. Like 10 cars of people that are just hammered. And Pat, being the people person that he is, gets a ride. And I'm like, sweet. He's going to beat Jermaine up there. He's going to save Jermaine some time. No, he doesn't.
No.
Jermaine beat Pat up, even though Pat got a ride, because Jermaine's a professional athlete. So I just want everyone to remember that as we're trying to keep up with this asshole the entire week.
From that point to where the truck was just under a mile. Just under a mile.
Yeah, and you beat
and I said I'm just gonna take off running. I'm just gonna go. And I take off running up the hill.
Jermaine Hodge, right? Armando, you can go
and
ahead.
And it's gradual uphill. It's not
my God.
It's not downhill.
It's not a flat road. It's uphill.
No, it's Jeep trail. It's rough.
And I just take off running, and I get to the truck and whatnot, and I get the truck cranked up and start pulling out and get down the road.
I drove that morning, yeah.
I drove about 200-300 yards down, and I see these guys coming up. And I'm like, well, let me pull over and let them go, and then I'll follow behind. But they start coming up, and this lady's waving at me. She said, waving real hard. And I said, I rolled my window down. She says, I got your buddy. I said, you got my buddy? I said, I don't know you from Adam and Eve. I said, got my buddy. And you remember, she's a little tipsy.
Yeah. Little is an understatement.
Well, I told her, I was like, you have to flag him down because he will not stop. He'll go around you. And I'll have to walk back down this thing. So I was like, tell him I'm with you.
So they flagged me down, and then sure enough, Pat pops out the truck. And I'm like, okay.
And they gave me a couple beverages, So
yeah.
it all worked out.
So we get down and swing, pick up the guys, man. And that was, and when I got to the rest of the guys, I said, you know what? Now that's how I like to start off my hunts. Boom.
Yeah. No, I believe what you said is if you want to win, you put Hodge in.
Yep.
And never mind Pat just shaking his head every time that sentence is mentioned. Pat's like, God damn it.
That's
Do you guys remember what we did that night?
I
remember nothing. I remember nothing happened, but I don't remember what we did.
No, I don't. We tried a different spot, and it didn't pan out to be anything.
Yeah.
Then I have to go back. I think I left, and you guys went and sat on water.
Did you?
We did.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
yeah,
so then
did.
I had to go back down the hill, go back to work.
Go back to camp, and you got to go back home, Pat. And Jared's got to go back home, and Zach's got to go home. So it's just me and Jermaine. Just a sweet little, little twosome. And and at this point, Jermaine, the biggest day we did, the biggest morning we did was that morning Jermaine showed up. And so at that point, I'm 30 miles in, day 3. So we sit in the water, and nothing happens, of course, like you'd expect, until Jermaine's like, hey, I'm gonna go. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna save that in a second here, Pat. Come on. So Jermaine's like, I'm gonna go pull my camera. We're done here. Let's get out of here. So Jermaine jumps up. Jermaine runs across the little valley. And as soon as he runs across the valley, I hear something to my left, and there are 3 cows and a spike right there. And they're probably 40 yards, but they sprint off to 100 yards as soon as they see Jermaine. And they stand there and they watch him. Jermaine walks down. Jermaine walks across. Jermaine pulls his camera. Jermaine walks back. Jermaine, like, they just stand there and watch him the whole time. Like, at 100 yards, they watch him for 5 minutes. It was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and then I get back and Michael's like, yo, there's elk right there. And I pull my binos up and you could barely see through the binos because it was getting too dark. And sure enough, I see them. I said, ain't that something? They gonna come in here at nighttime. But that's typical for that area because a lot of four-wheelers and dirt bikes ride up and down these roads. And these are like water troughs. These water troughs they feed the free-ranging cattle with. And this water trough, something busted on this water trough, but the water's still down on the ground. It's lots of water down there. But it's not in a trough like I think somebody shot that water trough and it leaked out, but it was still spilling water and it was still water all over the ground. So they were utilizing that water that was still there. And it was continuously pumping water out. And
it was one of the only springs that was still running because I checked a bunch of other ones around that one.
Yep. So they were definitely using that. But they were more so using it early morning or late evening. But it's a gamble anytime you sit on that water hole that we like to sit on. And I told Michael, I said, we've killed lots of elk off this water hole, but they usually come in late at night or early in the morning. So we just taking a gamble,
Yep. And we set that water hole because I was tired.
Oh yeah.
I was tired. I had put in a bunch of miles. At that point, we're talking 30 plus. But yeah, man. And then we go back to camp. It's just me and Jermaine. Jermaine, man, you are a special human. I had a wonderful time hanging out at camp with you. Well, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, right? So like the next day we go out and you're like, oh, we're going out all day. We're not going back to camp. We're going to do this thing. And we go out and we go exactly where we ran into those 5 elk the morning before. Nothing.
Not a damn peep.
Well, no, actually, we heard a couple bugles, but they weren't willing to come in. Just piping off a little bit, and then we go and all right, it's midday. Let's take a nap. And there's either in the sun where it's boiling hot, in the shade where it's too cold to sleep. It was just a miserable experience. Either way, we hang out all day. We get into, I think we called in a cow. We called in a spike that came in silently, but nothing really happened. We're just gonna go ahead and fast forward to what is it? Like day 6.
Yeah.
Day 6. We go out in the morning. We go to the pass, which we did with Pat earlier, and we do a lot of hiking. We run into a bunch of grouse, but nothing else.
Yep.
We spend a lot of time, a lot of miles, and nothing happens. So we go ahead and you're like, here, I got all these plans. And I'm like, Jermaine, I'm tired. I'm tired, Jermaine. I was like, It was
the evening, right? The evening after we got done with the pass.
Yeah. Even after we got done with the pass, you were like, I got this plan. It's like, we're going to hike to the top of these 10 mountains. We're just going to go. We're going to go and go and go. And I was like, Jermaine, hold on. I got an idea. because I'm fat and I am tired. How about we go to where we've seen these other elk? And you're like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So I'm like, we got this rock. Let's go to the top of this rock. Let's hang out there. And you're like, all right, let's do that. So we go up there and we're hanging out. We're like 2.5 hours into this, right? And Jermaine, you call me if I'm not telling the truth here. We're like 2.5 hours into sitting on this, and it's like straight up rock. You got to climb, almost rock climb to get to the top of it because you great vantage over this big draw that was the same draw we did on day 2. Same draw we did on day 1. Like, we just seen elk there every day. So we're at the top of this draw and nothing. Oh, actually, you know what? The night before, we actually got into an elk there. Either way, it got spooked by the bull moose, the cow moose. So we made a play at that cow or that elk. Cow moose busted it. But we're gonna go back now to day 7, and Jermaine's like, all right, I'm over this shit. Jermaine Hodge does not sit in one spot. He does not do it. He's like, you see that mountain? We're going to go hike to the top of that mountain and we're going to call off that mountain in 10 minutes. And I'm like, Jermaine, we're going to talk about that in 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes.
He's like, in 10 minutes, we're going to the top of that mountain and we're going to call. And I said, yes, we will talk about that in 10 minutes. I was like, I'm not talking about that right now. We're going to talk about that in 10 minutes.
That's Jermaine.
Thank God an elk showed up about 7 minutes later.
Two bulls show up.
Two bulls show up. Two bulls
I'm like,
show up.
holy smokes, there's elk right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jermaine's looking at me. He's like, he's like, get your fucking hiking pants on. And I'm like, elk, no, there's elk right there. We don't got to hike up that mountain. There's elk right there, Jermaine. We don't got to go up there. So either way, we drop off this rock, we drop across the river, we go like we're going for these elk. And we again bust the moose. That same moose is right there with her calf. So we're hiking in, bust the calf. Calf runs off. We're like, okay, the elk are still there. We can see them just a little up there. So we go a little farther. Mama moose jumps. She books it. I'm like, oh crap. So at this point, the elk, which we only see one. Jermaine says there's two, but at this point we only see one. It's on high alert. You know, it knows something's up. It doesn't know what's up, but it's seen two moose run off. This whole time, Mama Moose is 30 yards from us, just standing there, just watching us, just like, what are you guys doing? And that is it's a huge 5x5, probably like a 290-inch 5x5, just really big. It looked weird how big this 5x5 was, and it just sort of trots into the woods and runs off. And we're like, damn it. There we go. We lost another opportunity. And then all of a sudden, another spike jumps out of the brush. This is like 8 foot tall bear brush. He jumps up and he runs off. Damn it. Okay. Well, you know what? We lost that opportunity. So let's go. We drop out of that valley back to the rock that we were sitting on top of, which then that rock is kind of a pinch point between two different openings. And we go to the next one. And Jermaine and I are just walking out. We're walking to the truck and we're, shooting the shit, not being quiet, not doing anything. And I'm like, Jermaine, is that an elk? And he's like, yeah, that's a big bull. And we're Jermaine, 10 minutes from the end of shooting light? Like we're running out of light. Yeah. And I'm like,
we're roughly around 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like, let's go. So we have a quarter of a mile, and we're just jogging through the tree, like the edge of the tree line and the end to the edge of the opening. We're just jogging down there, trying to get close enough. And Jermaine, I'll let you tell this part because I think you had a lot more fun than I did.
No, so we seen that bull out there, and he had at one point we could only see 1 or 2 cows. And then he only had 3, I think, that night. Was it 3 or was it?
Yeah, I think 3.
3. I think 3 cows. And I said, I'm just going to get them fired up. I said, Michael, just get down in that bear brush stuff and just start sneaking in. And I'm just going to keep working them. So I'm cow calling. Then he just really wasn't responding to that. And then I just started ripping bugles. This dude lights up, and he acts like a ruddy elk. He starts acting like a ruddy elk. It's just going nuts. And I got him fired up so much, I was like, oh, this is about to happen. And I looked down in the meadow, and in Colorado, you can use Illuminox. And I looked down in the meadow, and I see this red Illuminox just lit up.
Oh, shit.
And I said, well, he must have punched that too hard into his string. But it wasn't a big deal. I was waving him on. I was like, keep going, get on him. And I stayed up on top of the hill, like, this bull that's just coming down to a meadow. And sure enough, it was firing him up. He got to the point where he had closed the distance quite a bit. And I was like, man, we out of the light. I said, and Michael started pulling back, and I was like, let's pull out of here. I said, we'll come get him.
Hold on. I'm going to Jermaine's giving me too much credit. I put my arrow on my bow and I lit off that Luminoc, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I dropped down, I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever turned one of those things off, so I have to pull my broadhead off, spin it off with the arrow, and I use the edge of my broadhead to turn it off
Oh, fudge.
and do that. And so then, okay, back to it. And this bear brush is 8 feet tall. I can't see shit.
This stuff is so tall. If I go in it, I'm lost. If Michael goes in it, you might see his cap.
Yeah,
I see, but it's tall. And
yeah.
that's that stuff that those believe it or not, those elk eat the tips off of them, but the moose love that stuff. And so anyways, no,
Well, Jermaine, but here, man, so we run at, like, I'm going over there and I'm like, okay, maybe he's coming. And I'm like, no, I can't see anything. We run out of shooting lights. So I start walking back to Jermaine. And then I take my binos out. You can see a little bit better through your binos than you can through your eyes at last light. And I'm like, oh shit, he's coming. That bull is coming. So I'm like, oh, get another arrow out. I get the same arrow out. And that Luminoc goes off again. So I drop down in the brush and I'm trying to like pull my broadhead off and take my Luminoc.
Oh my
So, like,
God.
Jermaine gives me credit, but like I set that Luminoc off twice during this. Well, he's there just ripping, they're chuckling, they're bugling, they're doing their thing. And I'm just sitting here like an idiot with no broadhead on my arrow, just trying to turn off the light on my knock. It was absolutely ridiculous, man.
And this is when he was all like, I wasn't there, but I remember this is when you like videoed him and he's like, why doesn't everybody like to do this? This is the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
yep.
Exactly, man. So eventually I'm like, okay, I can't see anything. I can't see 5 feet in front of me. So I'm going to go back to one of these bugling bulls, which I know is Jermaine. I'm like, what happens? I was like, I don't. What happens tomorrow? Like, if we don't push this guy off, is he going to be here tomorrow? Jermaine's like, yeah, he'll be there tomorrow. I think he'll be there tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, well, let's get the hell out of here. And so we hike up.
That's when I came back up to camp.
Well, we hiked to the top of the ridge. Jermaine rips another bugle, and man, he rips off again. That big old bull just ripping right back at Jermaine, like they are worst enemies in the world. And Jermaine and I, he was so fired. I've never experienced a bull, well, until a couple days later, experienced a bull that fired up. And I mean, for lack of a better term, Jermaine and I basically skipped back to the truck. This is what you're talking about, Pat. We were like, yeah, like we were like, that was such a fun experience, from stalking the elk and then the moose blowing it and then going down and again that other bull so fired up. And that's when Jermaine was like, why would anyone do anything else? Like, why would you have any other hobbies than this? This is it. And we both just like, we're just on cloud nine, right, Jermaine?
On the red. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was Cloud 9. We cut a video and I explained to everybody, I'm like, man, once you experience something like that, you'll never want to go back. You know, whitetail hunting ain't nothing like this.
Yeah.
You hear you hear that dragon go off like that, and you actually laid eyes on him. You're like, wow. To hear it is one thing, to see it is another. And so we're on cloud 9, but we also know that everybody else is coming back to camp, so we got to share this story with them.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we get back to camp, and I'll let you take over, Michael, while I'm flipping over these burgers.
All right, man. Yeah, we get back to camp. Pat, you're there. And Jim is there. Jim is another friend of theirs that had shown up into camp. Jim's an elderly gentleman. I don't know what.
Jimmy Crack Corn and I don't care. That's
Jimmy
right.
Crack Corn. He's I'm gonna say 75.
No,
Yes.
he ain't that. I don't think he's that.
I don't know. He's got a 95-year-old in-law, so he's an elderly gentleman, is all I'm saying. Either way, we get back there and Jermaine is playing it coy. Jermaine's like, you guys pick what you want to do tomorrow. Here's a couple of options. And he's throwing all these options at Pat. And Pat's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you're telling me that big ass bull's gonna not gonna go anywhere, why would we go anywhere else other than right there?
I'm going back.
We're going back. Let's go get that big ass bull. So we go back in the morning. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole story. Pat, we're 100 yards from the truck. And at this point, we're like, hey, Jim, if you're coming with us, you don't have a tag, you got to film. So 70-year-old Jim's got his camera. He's got
my camera.
He's got your expensive camera. And 100 yards from the truck, he eats shit hard.
Oh my God. I was like, is my camera okay?
Dude, Pat, we missed the entire day. We went up to that one spot that I hated Jermaine for. We skipped that whole day, but that's not important because nothing fucking happened other than you eating shit. You ate shit harder than Jim. But either way, Jim ate shit. Jim ate shit so hard that all of us looked at each other like, I think we're done hunting today, gentlemen. Like we were all, I mean, you guys all know we thought we were done. And Jim stood up and went,
dude, I look back and you guys, I ain't mean to interrupt you. I look back and Jim has bad vertigo. So if he gets on one leg, he's done. You can push him over. And I don't know exactly what happened. And I'll let Pat tell like what he was there. He was right there. And I look back and Jim just bit the dust. And I'm like, damn. I said, here we go. I said, I knew I should have left him at camp cooking burritos. I said, but I'm fine with it. I said, okay. And you guys helped him out and get him up, and we made sure he was all right. And I was thinking, boy, this hunt's over before it even started.
That's what I was thinking too, man.
And we got a bull down here that we getting ready to go chase. He got up, shook it off, and later on,
he said that tree came out of nowhere. That tree came out of nowhere, and he did not miss a step. He did not miss a step.
No, that dude back in the day. Oh my God, he can hike.
He out-hiked me.
Yeah,
he can hike.
Yeah. Either way, Jim is a boss. He's amazing. I can't believe he got up from that fall because it was a big, hard fall. We hiked right up to that spot that Jermaine and I blew the last bugle the night before. They got Jermaine all fired up. Nothing. Not a peep. And
not a damn word.
Not nothing.
Now remind everybody that these bulls are just starting to like do the rut activity.
6th, 7th,
8th.
First week of September, 8th.
Yeah, it's September 8th.
It was early.
And
we're getting them to talk.
Ahead,
we're getting them to come in, but
so I wasn't too mad that he wasn't firing off. I was just I really wanted to know that he was still there. And we get down to the edge of that meadow and we start glassing. Yep. This dude, they must have been making some noise that night because this dude gathered up quite a few more cows.
We see one cow. We see 2 cows. We see 3 cows. We see 4. And all of a sudden we're like, oh man, there are 10 cows. And then all of a sudden this big old bull walks into that valley. And Jermaine tries calling, but he's just looking.
Did you try to call? I don't remember you calling.
Just a little bit. He called once.
Yeah, I made a couple of sounds, but once he didn't answer, I kind of figured out the game. Like, okay, not going to play this game with him. I said, I'm not going to play this game with him. I said, I know these type of bulls. I said, we're gonna play the silent game with this dude. And when I did that, it was more so. It turned into, and I'm ashamed to say this. I'm definitely ashamed to say this because I pride myself in calling elk in. And when this dude didn't want to play the game, I knew this was going to be a spot and start kind of hunt. Or we move in close enough where I let out a couple cow sounds and then I bring them in close enough for us to get a shot. But it ended up turning into, okay, the wind is not really conducive of going after him right now.
It was close.
And I said, but if he gets at the edge of this other side, I said, everybody's kind of looking at me like, what's the game plan? And I'm checking the wind, and I'm like, if he gets to the edge of that, I said, we're cutting across here, boys. So soon as his head pops across them trees, I said, let's go. We hauled butt to the other side.
And to give everyone a quick visual, I just want to give everybody a quick visual. So imagine a T, right? And so we are at the lower side of the T, but it is uphill. So we've got a long draw that goes from where we are downhill, and then it hits another draw that intersects. He's right at the intersection of the capital T. And he's kind of going from left to right. We're on the left side, and we're like, well, the wind's going right to him. Right to him. But if he goes across, we're hoping he'll go up the other draw. And so as soon as we lose sight of him, we've made that assumption. He's going up the other draw. And so that's when we cross over our draw. Hope that makes enough sense to folks. Give me a call if it doesn't. I'll explain it more. But
so
go ahead,
basically,
Jermaine.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a big T, and we're on the leg of the T, not the cross member. He's down there. He gets over to the other side, and I say, let's go. And boom, all 5 of us head over there. And I'm walking through this thick stuff, and I said, I'm thinking in my head, it's no way that this is gonna happen. No way. No way in hell. I said the chances are is less than 10% of this happening. Mm-hmm. So we get over there. Me and Michael are in the front. Pat's behind us. Oh no, it's only 4 of us. And then Jim. Yep.
Yeah. We're kind of hovering into the woods. We're hovering into the bear brush. We're like, none of this is good. Let's go. We're kind of that transition area between the woods and the bear brush, and we're just kind of.
Well, I have to preface, like, in all the times hunting with Jermaine, I've never seen him walking with windicator and checking every 30 seconds. I've never seen him do it that much. That's how sketchy the wind still was.
I mean, it's going straight to where we just saw it, to where we just saw that bull. That wind is going down the draw exactly like you'd expect it. Like the thermals go downhill, the draw goes downhill. Everything goes right that direction. But we're like,
and then the face that we see from Jermaine is, every time we check.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not liking it. I was not liking the situation at all.
No one did.
And as I said, I don't think this is gonna happen. But we get over there, and I'm still checking the wind, and we start getting, kind of closer to where this elk may be. And Michael, you can take over from here, but Michael says, there he is.
I just see legs. And I'm like, Jermaine, stop. And when you stop short in the car, you throw the hand in front of the person next to you. I just throw my hand on Jermaine, and I'm like, there are legs. Pat's right behind me. Pat can't see shit.
Right behind him. That's how I realized how tall Michael was, because I never saw the elk ever. Because I couldn't see around you guys. I had no idea what was going on. I was thinking, there's some cows maybe in front of him. I'm just sitting there like, okay, I knock an arrow, maybe this cow bust, maybe I'll step forward and get an opportunity. I had no idea that it was actually him 40 yards away.
So when Michael put his hand on me, I looked over and I seen tines. And I said, oh, that's him. And sure enough, no one was really ready at this point. And I said, froze. He kept walking into the window. And I said, I looked over at Michael. I looked back at Pat and I said, stop moving.
You were talking to me. You were talking to someone else.
Pat has no clue what's going on because he can't really see. And so Pat stops moving, and I look over at Michael and I said, knock an arrow.
Yeah.
And he said, okay.
Well, so when you say that, Jermaine, I look at this elk, and all I see is behind its ears to its ass. Like its head is directly behind 2 trees. And I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Jermaine. I will knock an arrow right now. And I knock an arrow.
Yeah, so you never saw it was him?
No, I saw it was him walking in because I was the first person to stop. But he walked to a point where when he stopped walking, he saw
Oh,
Jermaine, but he did not see
Yeah.
me.
He had his eyes pegged on it was something up the hill that didn't look right. And remind you that wind, it missed him by inches.
Inches.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it missed him by inches because the way he was coming up to the side of the hill, and the wind was blowing straight straight past him. And if he would have walked up and smelled us, he would have been gone. But I think it missed him by inches. And then, so I'm coaching Michael through all this, and he's like, and I whispered, knock an arrow. So as soon as I see him knock an arrow, I said, 40 yards, no time to range. But I'm typically good at 60 and down, at getting really close. And I knew he couldn't have been more than 40. So I was like, 40 yards. And he was like, okay. He's like, do you think I can get through that? And there was a tree down there.
A lot of brush. A lot of brush.
A lot of brush. I said, you can get through that. And anyways, Mike, you tell your story of this.
All right. So yeah, I'm like, Jermaine. Jermaine goes 40. I go, all right. I'm like, there's a lot of brush. He goes, no, you got that. You got that. So I have him in an air knocked. I pull back, and all I see is a tree branch. And so if we actually got this whole thing on video, because Jim, the man who ate shit hard, got the perfect shot of the entire thing, and I'll share it. But either way, you see me pull back, and I can't see anything. So I just like duck down about 8 inches, and I let it rip. And he's quartering two
Slightly.
and that quartering two slightly, and it hits him right behind the arm, and he runs off. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And Jermaine and Pat are like, well, Pat doesn't fucking have a clue what's going on at this point.
No clue.
But Jermaine's like,
no.
Jermaine looks at me and he's like, dead bull. And so like I'm as fired up as could be. I got again, as of the story of the day before, Luminox. I got Luminox. We just see that Luminox disappear into its side. And man, it just feels so good. And we're like, all right. Everyone, and Jermaine starts calling, Pat's calling, just trying to get him to calm down. Fortunately, we have a really high quality camera, so we pull the camera card, we put it on the phone, we're looking at it, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna sit for an hour. we spend the next hour looking at this video, and these guys are like, oh, it's a little far back, just like analyzing the shot for an hour. To the point
there was a lot of similarities though to like my bull last year, where I shot, it was quartering towards a little bit harder, I think, and we were kind of like, oh man, it could have mislung maybe, and we're looking at the worst case scenarios, and
yeah,
we definitely worked you up a little bit.
Yeah, so it's just basically 2 hours of these assholes just telling me how bad my shot was or how not great my shot was. Is potato. Either way, they're like from when I shot it to being like dead bull to I think might be alive for 10 to 12 hours. So we all agree. Basically, we're gonna give this thing 2 hours before we even take a look. Maybe an hour. Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me.
Armando, he was sitting on there sweating. Now, remind you, like, we did look at the footage and we were like, it was a better shot than we thought, but we still didn't want to. We if you hunt animals,
you thought it was a good shot, and then you analyzed it and then changed your mind. You thought it was a great shot right off the bat.
Were you guys doing that on purpose just to mess with them?
No, because
feels like it, Armando.
I took Jermaine on a 12-hour blood trail last year, so in a very similar situation.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like, ooh, maybe.
to be honest, like you know, they're big animals and they are very hardy. And man,
Yes, they
you got
are.
to think of the winners and the predators that they deal with, and you know, you think you hit them good, and then next thing you know, you made a bad shot, or the shot just didn't penetrate well, or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. But after looking at the video footage, I was like, we need to get this bull a couple more hours. So we ended up staying there. What was it, 2 hours? 2 hours
Well,
is what we told.
Yeah, after 1 hour, you went down and retrieved the arrow. Full
Yep.
pass through. The arrow smelled a little bit like guts, but in general, it looked like a pretty good arrow. And you know, for
Backside.
quartering towards shot, you're expecting a little bit of guts. Either way, we wait 2 hours. And at 2 hours, we're like, all right, let's go check it out. We got 4 guys. We start looking. We go down to where we knew we shot it. Remember, Jermaine said 40 yards. It was 37 and a half yards. So pretty damn good
Close.
guess.
Yeah.
Or estimate. But yeah. And then also Jermaine was like, oh shit, that hole you shot through, that was way smaller than I thought.
Oh,
it
was so small.
It was small, but it was
Yeah.
close to the elk, though. Really close to the elk. So.
Yeah, he gave me credit for that shot. So I hit the hole I was aiming for. I hit the elk, and we started looking. And Pat, myself, and Jim are following the tracks. We see hard tracks when I hit it, no blood, but we're looking for tracks. We're all hanging out in the woods. And again, this is right when the woods hits that big open draw. We don't hear a lot of cracking when I shoot it, so we assume it's in the draw. So Jermaine goes straight to the draw and starts glassing, looking for antlers. We don't see any tracks. We don't see any blood. We don't see shit.
Nothing.
No
blood at all.
And you had a pass through.
We had a full pass through. The arrow, iron will broadhead, like full pass through, covered in blood, but there's not a drop of blood anywhere that anyone can find.
And there really wasn't even like up to when we eventually do find him. Like there wasn't a lot of blood.
No blood. Either way, we look for like 10, 15 minutes and no one's finding anything. Eventually, Pat and I are talking and I'm losing my soul. Like I'm just completely
want to
lost.
throw up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. It's the worst feeling I've ever experienced. And I see Jermaine in this field walking real fucking fast. Real fast. And I'm like, Jermaine looks like he's got something. He's got something. I don't know what he's got, but and Jermaine's just walking. Binos. Walking. Binos. And I mean, Jermaine, if you want to tell it, but like what you saw something.
Weird. That was weird.
Yeah, so I was sitting at the edge, kind of when you come out through that meadow. Let me rewind a little bit. So I said this. I said, best case scenario, I said, he ran out into that meadow and he's out there still alive and he's moving his head and we'll have to come up and make a follow-up shot. I said, worst case scenario, he ran, I'm thinking he ran across the meadow and that's going to be crazy. I said, but I was thinking if it was a bad shot, he ran out to the meadow and just bedded down. But when I got to the edge of the meadow, when we was looking for blood and stuff, I got to the edge of the meadow and I was looking, I glassed the whole meadow. I walked out deeper in the meadow because I couldn't see nothing. And I seen this rock, this black furry rock. But it looked like, with my binos, like a rock that had moss on it. So I said, I got to get a better look at this. And I get a little closer out there. And this is what Michael was saying. I was pulling up my binos. It was just really weird. And I said, man, I got to get closer. I cannot, even with my binos, I cannot make this out. And I'm getting closer and I'm like, dude, that's his belly. That's his belly. All I could see was black. And that's that dark. But also when he was bent over and the sun was hitting it, you could see his skin. So it looked like a rock.
Yeah.
shine was coming off his skin,
In a
but he
weird position.
black on there. And I was like, dude, I got to get a little closer and a little closer. Finally, I was like, hey, that's him. And I'm waving the boys over, and I'm like, come on over here, because we got a dead elk.
Best
And-
thing I've ever seen in my life was that guy
and-
waving us over.
After looking at him piled up the way he piled up,
It was weird.
he didn't last minutes. He was done. He flipped over, Armando. He flipped over backwards.
Yeah.
Damn.
Backwards. He did a flip, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Horns were buried in the dirt. And he's just
Yeah.
Yeah. It took a little bit of work to
It
get him right-sided so we could just
Wicked.
process him.
I know, because I got
Yeah.
out there. I got out there before Michael and them, and I tried to move him just so Michael didn't see him the way I wanted to see him with his head laid. And I said, dude, I'm gonna stab myself with his horns. I'm gonna need help with this one.
Yeah.
And so then we both, when he got out there, high fiving, celebrating and whatnot, and talking about like
Hugging. We hugged.
hugged,
Yep.
cried, cheered.
him
All
not
that stuff.
him not lasting
All of
too
it.
long.
The whole gamut of emotion.
I said, well, you grab that side of the horn, I grab this side, so we don't get stabbed here, because he was dug into the dirt.
Yeah. Like he
Really good.
straight up reared like a horseshoe, and then just fell backwards on himself. I got a
Oh,
great
what's
photo of
interesting
it,
too
Armando.
is-
I'll send you.
There was a cow, if we remember, that did this crazy bark moments after you shot. And I think that was a cow barking at him, like, what the hell? Like, what are you? Because it flipped over and he died fairly quick. It was just a weird bark.
Yep.
Like, that was
Yep.
hey, like
I remember hearing that.
that meadow. And that was right after about a minute after you'd shot. So that I remember that too. Like,
Yep.
awkward way to
shot,
go.
shot him at 6:30. We're gonna guess he was dead at 6:31.
Yeah.
Found him at 8:30, and we were back at camp by noon, like fully packed out.
Yeah, we quartered him up
pack
pretty quick.
Yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
Michael.
yes, sir.
As you're seeing the wave and Jermaine is waving you over, like explain that walk up. Like
Oh my
this is your
God.
this is your first archery elk hunt. You've already had the experience. You had the pressure of having 2 world champions with you. You've been close to numerous animals, and now you think you just made a poor shot on an animal. Like explain that, because I don't know that everybody who's listening has walked up after feeling, like, fuck, I really don't know. Like it's a feeling that until you've done it, you don't understand, and you want to throw up. And I want to throw up thinking about it, because I've been there too. But
Armando,
when
question.
when it changes, and you're looking over this field and you want to throw up, and then you see him wave to you, and you know in your mind what this means. Start from there. From there.
Yeah, brother. And I know I'm going to start actually one step farther back, which is I was hunting with 2 world elk calling champions.
Yes.
And the best opportunities I had were spot and stock. I'm gonna throw that out there real quick.
That happened on 2 hunts. That happened on 2 hunts.
Yeah, on at least 2 different times. I was like, I looked at the camera guy and I'm like, this is some bullshit. This is some bullshit. I'm with 2 of the best callers in the world. And I'm stocking 500, like on day 2. I'm stocking 500 yards on this elk. Like, call this thing in, Pat. Call this thing in, Jermaine. No, I'm kidding, of course.
That's the truth.
That is the truth.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Hey,
We're making you earn your wings. Come on now.
I got it. Hey, I'm telling you, hey, you have to adapt out there. You have to adapt.
I'm kidding. Of course, I'm kidding. First off,
no doubt.
Both Pat and Jermaine, I would not have killed this elk without them for 100 different reasons. But Armando, to answer your question, man, like I've never felt so uncomfortable. I've never felt so sick. I've never felt like when I shot that bull, I was like, I did it. We've done it. And then we watched that video for 2 hours. We watched
Yeah.
a 50-second video for 2 hours. Like literally 30, 40 times we watched this video, and I just felt like, oh, maybe it isn't a good shot. And I've shown people that video since, and they're like, yeah, it's not a good shot. And I'm like, no, it's a great shot. Screw you. But
So,
go ahead, Jermaine.
no, you know what, Armando? The entrance was really good.
Yeah.
What was very important about his entrance is that he entered in and hit both lungs.
He did hit both lungs?
Both lungs. And then when he exited out of the guts. And that was the scary part of the whole thing. But if you go back, I'm gonna tell you, you won't run far if you can't breathe. Mm-hmm. So his entrance was really good. He just shot through both lungs, pierced the diaphragm on both ends, and then he exited on the far end, which was concerning to us. After we got there to the animal and we seen where his entrance was, that was evident of where, like, how vital that shot was. But if he was, let's say, 7 inches to the left of where he shot, it would have been a different scenario where he only got one lung and then he exited out on the guts, and then that bull's out there, or maybe he hit him in the liver and the bull's out there still alive. But his entrance was really good. I went back and looked at the video. I went back and looked at like the shot placement. It was really good.
Awesome.
Really good. Yeah. No, that bull wasn't even alive a minute.
Yeah. Either way, Armando, like, man, I don't know. I've been through, I live in the corporate world. I've had corporate layoffs, and like I felt more sick when these guys were like, maybe it's dead, maybe it's not, than when I was like sitting there for an hour waiting to find out whether or not I got laid off from my job. Like it was awful. It was awful. And these guys are like, nah, and like we're shivering, and then we're going to stand in the sun, and then Pat's farting, like all sorts of stuff's going on. Like it's just absolutely. Oh, by the way, we skipped this whole part, but the morning we were driving in to shoot this bull.
Oh, that was hilarious.
So funny. And this bull's name is Plato because Jim, the elderly gentleman, he's putting sunscreen on, and I don't know what kind of sunscreen he's got.
It smells like Play-Doh.
My sunscreen smells like coconut. His smells like Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Either way, he's putting that on, and in the meantime, Pat is ripping ass, and so all we smell is ass and Play-Doh, and we're like, what the hell's? And Jermaine and I are in the front, Jim and Pat.
Well, Jim was doing the same in the camper, so everyone already started out knowing that Jim had gas, but then I happened to have some gas, so that's kind of how we blamed it all on him though. So
Armando, let me tell you my story because that shit's funny.
Yeah, go ahead, Jermaine, please.
Armando, listen. We start off by waking up in the morning, and Pat blames Jim.
That was Jim. That wasn't me in the morning.
Pat blames Jim. He's blaming.
No. The first one, the camper, Jim farted right there in my grill. Like what the heck?
So Pat blames Jim for letting it go. Right?
No,
I don't smell it. I don't smell it, but I'm like, Pat, calm down, man. And then to remind you that Jim can't smell very good at all. It's not at all. So this makes a whole lot more sense now because Jim could rip ass and not even know that, he had farted. He knew he farted, but he didn't know what it smelled like. Yeah. So then we get in the truck after hearing Pat complain a little bit. We get in the truck and we start driving. And all them bumps, I tell everybody, I said, if you ain't got a crap by the time you get done with this, then something's wrong with you. Because it's going to shake the crap out.
Yeah.
And we're going down the road, and all I smell was this Play-Doh smelling crap. And I'm like, so I rolled my window down and I'm laughing. I'm thinking Jim can't smell him farting himself. I said, he is raunchy right now. I said, he got to do something better than this. So I'm dying laughing because now I'm
Well,
like,
I brought up because I used to be a kindergarten teacher when I was first trying before I became a school teacher, and it reminded me of that. You smell farts and kids, farting and pooping, and then Play-Doh. So that's how I brought up the whole scenario. And then every time they would smell, he'd be like, "Dang, we had this playground. It smelled like preschool."
oh, it was so awful. But it was funny because I don't think Jim was catching on. And I was like,
no,
he ain't catching on, but I'm dying laughing. I'm to the point where I'm crying laughing. And then everybody exits the vehicle. This is the morning of the kill. Everybody exits the vehicle and they disperse like roaches again because everybody's got a crap.
Yeah.
Like boom. And then we come back together. Okay. And then Jim, I don't even know if Jim went and used the bathroom, but if he did, he lightened his load, which made him even lighter when he went over that log and tripped.
Yeah.
Either way, it's very important to mention that it was Pat ripping ass the whole time, and Pat was firmly throwing it at Jim. And Jim was like,
"Yes, well, can't smell."
Jim didn't care. Jim didn't care.
That's why I was laughing.
Jim's got this sense of humor that he enjoyed taking that blame.
Oh, Jim couldn't smell nothing, and he was like, "I don't know what you guys are laughing at."
Yeah.
Couldn't smell a thing.
Oh, we got off subject.
Yeah. Tell me, Mike. So he's waving to you, and you're like, "Holy shit!" This
right, back to the
elk. Yeah. He might have. You're like, well, now you kind of know.
Yeah, man. It was the best. It was the best Jermaine's ever looked, as far as I'm concerned. Waving me over.
Okay, how far were you from him? So I'm in my mind, I'm picturing you're kind of on the edge of this timber, and then like a meadow, maybe, or a field, some sort of opening.
The bull made it from where I shot.
The only dry spot in the meadow.
Yeah, first off, it's a swamp. There's a swamp, and it landed in the only dry spot. Thank you, Mr. Play-Doh.
Yes.
But it was about 150 yards from where I shot it.
Okay.
So I want to say 120 yards is where it was, and Jermaine was maybe 70 yards from us. Waving us
perfect.
In.
Okay.
And we're just like, hell yeah. And Pat and I are like, let's go. And I'm just like, I just want to like throw everything. Man, I'm ecstatic. Because first off, I've shot an elk before, but it ended up not being my elk, so I lost a lot of the thunder to it. But it was my first archery kill. It was really my first elk.
Cool.
And we had put in, I think, 80 miles over 8 days, something like that. It was absolutely insane. And it was a huge bull. It was a much bigger bull than I was expecting. I would have shot any bull in, it's 300 plus. We don't know exactly. Haven't gotten any scores back on it, but more than anything, I'm just glad I didn't injure it. Like I've heard that from many hunters before, and I never thought much about it until all of a sudden these assholes for 2 hours told me how terrible my shot was. And that was hard. That was really, really hard. But when I knew that bull was dead, I was like, yes, thank God. And then when I found out that he had lived for maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes before, like, it didn't have time to calm down in bed. It ran out there, reared up, and then fell on itself.
That's cool. Yeah.
When we got to it, go ahead, Jermaine.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say when Jermaine and I finally flipped it over, the only blood we found the entire time was about a 1 foot by 1.5 foot little patch.
Yep,
that's insane.
I was about to say the same thing. It was
right where it was, upside down.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead,
Jermaine. All the blood, Armando, was in his cavity.
Yep.
There was so much blood in his cavity. I think he took off. He didn't even have time to bleed. He took off, ran out that meadow, and just piled up.
Yeah. When
had that
Jermaine
happen
cut the
with.
heart out, because we wanted to take the heart out with us, it was like a river. It was absolutely insane.
Those are
Yeah.
tough,
I
man.
mean,
I've
Jermaine,
had
you
those
pulled
bulls.
out coagulated blood that was like the size of a gallon jug.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It had started clotting up in the cavity, and I've had that happen with different bulls where they don't run too far and they just pile up. You know, like my bull, not my bull from this year, but my bull from last year. Uh, Dude, we didn't find a drop of blood, but it was all in his cavity, and it was just piled up in his cavity. So it happens, definitely, but usually those bulls don't run too far at all. So, um,
Yeah.
as long as you look in the area, you'll find those bulls. But yeah, the concerning thing was no blood, and I was like, okay, either A, it was a real bad shot, or B, he's dead within the area, and it just so happened he was dead within the area, and it was it was a magical moment. It was perfect.
Yeah, there's
was.
nothing like
It
that,
was.
dude.
It was pretty awesome. I gave everybody hugs. Pat tried to make out with me a little bit. He's not here right now, so I can say that. I stiff-armed him pretty good. It was like, no, man, you and Jermaine, that's your thing.
What happened
That's
now?
funny.
I had to stop my son from burning down the house. Sorry.
Either way, it was
saying?
one of the best moments of my life. You know, like getting married, having kids. They are better. I'm not gonna lie, they are better. But
Yeah.
I have not ever done anything in my life that I've tried as hard as I have to kill elk. And 80 miles later, meeting up with these gentlemen, it was an amazing moment. And here's the thing: good hunting buddies are more important than anything. If I had not killed anything, I had the time of my life, Jermaine and Pat. Like, hunting camp, looking at Jermaine run up a mountain and me trying to keep up was the most fun I've probably ever had. Like, that was so great. So thank you guys for inviting me. Even if I tricked you, thank you for having me. It was it's about who you're doing it with. It's not necessarily about the harvest. That's what we're all going for. But really, it's about the people you're with and the experiences you have. So thank you guys.
Yeah, that's the bonus. When you get to harvest an animal, that's a bonus.
It is a bonus.
When you go out there and you spend time with good friends and you have, the biggest thing is having fun. Not trying to, not trying to be mad or angry at, the elk. I mean, elk are doing what elk do, and you're just trying to fool them at the game. And the biggest thing is having fun doing it. And if you can laugh more than you've been sad, then you're golden. I promise you. You will look back at those camps and be like, I absolutely loved being with that person. I absolutely treasured every moment of that. But if you can look back in camp and be like, man, that sucked, then you got to change it. You got to change the environment. Now you can look back and say, you can look back and say, man, every moment of that sucked, but I loved it.
Yes.
Then you're golden.
Jermaine, I have a question for you because I think I know the answer. I've hunted with a lot of people, guiding hunters and taking other people out and stuff like that. But to Michael's credit, like, you've been out with a lot of other hunters before. You've taken hunters out and all that stuff. Like, if you're taking somebody out new who, Michael, you didn't trick him into it. Like, obviously he did this out of the kindness of his heart and knowing, like, hey, I do like this man. Like, let's give him a shot. Let's try to make this experience special for him. Jermaine, like, give me some reasons that validated why you did what you did and why it was special. Like, what are you looking for? And this is mostly for the listeners. Like, hey, if somebody invites you or they're willing to spend, some of their vacation accrual on you and to help you, like, what are the things that Michael did that made it totally worth it?
No,
great question.
Yes,
hope he has a good answer.
I got a great answer for you. And if they don't like it, then Well, I'm telling you from my heart. Number one is when he asked me to be on the podcast, and we spent literally like 4 hours with some drinks involved. But I was telling him genuine stories, and we laughed for hours. And I said, if a guy like that can listen to me for hours and still be laughing to the end, I said, man, we definitely got to shake hands at one point. And then we met outside of the phone and phone conversation and podcast, and we genuinely like looked at each other and was like, yeah, this just a good guy. And I meant that when I was on the podcast with him. I said, hey man, let's go. You draw the tag, let's go. And sure enough, to find out that he drew the tag or was applying for the tag, and I told him, I said, hey, if you draw the tag, I knew I was out of the game this year. I wasn't going to draw a tag. I was going to be playing a reissue list. And I said, these are my dates, and this is when I can come. And then some things kind of changed because we had an Idaho hunt going on. I said, well, all right, this is how I'm going to adjust this. Usually for me, at the beginning of season, I'm usually killing a lot of good bulls in the beginning of season. So I told him, I said, let's go to the very beginning of season, because if you go to the end of the season, I'm not going to be able to help you. And he took his days off to do that. And I scheduled my stuff around everything else to do that. Of course, shoot, I've been on a 2-month hiatus right now. But to go back, the reason why I did that, and I try to do that on a yearly basis, is because genuine people like Michael, like Pat, like yourself, I love to spend time with those guys at camp because I laugh more than anything. And that they say this, and I mean well by it, but laughter will keep you young. Even though you see me running up the hill all the time, you're like, how in the hell? It's because I've been laughing at them the whole night. And my energy levels through the roof for what's gonna happen this day. So that's that sums all that up, and that's why I do. And I'm grateful to do something like that for someone like him and anybody else that wants to endure the pain that I'm gonna put them through.
Hey,
Love it.
That's
Yeah.
accurate.
I think for me, when I take, and I wasn't on this hunt, this is just kind of an interjection, is just the effort. Like, from what I hear from this story is the effort, Michael, that you put in. Like, you're not, a professional wrestler, like Jermaine, and you're still out there working as hard as you can. And if he says we're going, then we're going, the effort to me is, when I'm guiding a hunter, taking somebody out and they don't want to give it to me, I it's hard for me to put all my energy into the thoughts and what's the next play and what's the next spot and how do we approach it and what's our setup and all that stuff. Like, all that stuff could deteriorate pretty quick. So if you are that guy that gets taken out, give that effort. That's the least you can do for the person that's helping you out.
Absolutely.
Like
100%.
Yeah, Pat, you could tell that you take advantage of every lesson that Jermaine is giving you, and you're able to utilize that. Like, that is so important. I take out a lot of people who kind of use me as a crutch. Like, well, whatever you think, let's go. Whatever you want to do, And I'm like, well, fuck, man, use your brain a little bit. Like, I'm teaching you, and you're just not picking it up. You're just following me. I'm trying to teach you. So kudos to you too, Pat, because you don't become a world champion by not putting in the effort and the time, and and then being willing to share that. I just think it's a beautiful experience for three kind of random people to come together and be able to do it on the mountain. So kudos.
Yeah, thanks,
kudos
man.
to all you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Jermaine, I found though you got to cover ground and be willing to drop in anywhere, everywhere. It don't matter. You can't be thinking about how you're gonna get the elk out. You just gotta get in there and go.
You gotta kill it. Yeah.
And Jermaine always says, if you don't go, you don't know.
Facts.
That's right.
Facts.
That's right. That's right.
Facts.
And
yeah.
that was my experience in Idaho this year.
Oh yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh
But
my God.
I told myself when I came on this hunt, I was like, just be positive, man. Just like keep moving. And then I told Jermaine and Pat when I got there, I was like, I'm not fast, but I will not quit. Like I will be there as long as you're willing to wait long enough for me to get to where you're going.
Well, you were kicking my butt.
So like, and that's how I am. I was like, I was always like Jermaine's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, let's go, let's do it. Like I had nothing but positive vibes. When someone takes you out hunting, cherish it. It's a big deal. Like I said, I think the first thing I said in this podcast was like, you guys invited me to your hunting camp, which is mind blowing because I'm very hesitant to invite people to my hunting camp because I've had bad experiences. It's a big deal to be brought along, especially with someone of your caliber. Like I'm sitting here with 3 amazing hunters. And just to be in your presence is amazing. So take advantage when you get those opportunities to the listeners because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Any hunt that you go on.
Hey, one other point. I'm gonna have to get off here in a minute, but I think probably one of the most important points about this whole story that happened, world champion, moving to a different state, having to come back, drawing a tag, like all this stuff was great. We did not, and I think a lot of people get I don't know, they draw focus on the size of the animal. You shot a giant animal. We didn't even talk about it. We never brought it up. It's a over 300-inch 6x6, right? And it's a stud, and that doesn't matter. It could have been a 2x2, and the story and everything else that happened is what's important. So, as you guys are hunting and as you're learning and as you're growing, you don't have to set a goal or there's not a marker, a benchmark to make something a special trip or a special animal. Like the experience is what it's about. So kudos to you guys for not bringing that up. That was badass.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't even matter, Armando. It was the whole story behind it.
Yeah, it doesn't. You said, his giant horns were stuck in the mud. Being stuck in the mud and knowing he was dead before he knew it, that's what's important,
Yes.
But I just 100%. Wanted to say that I would have killed any bull. Cool. That was cool.
I would have killed any bull that showed up that entire week. That being said, we do have a friendly bet on how many inches that bull actually is, which first off, I think is bullshit because it's Jermaine, me, and my buddy Jared. And Jared, and Pat, and Jared and I have no idea.
Pat, who's Pat?
Yeah. I didn't know you were in there, Pat. But either way, Jared and I have literally no idea how to score a bull. So we're like, whatever. Give me a number. I'll say that number. That's what I'm guessing. Well, Jermaine and Pat actually, So either way, it's like I'm losing money. Whatever.
Somewhere near 323. That's what I guessed. Jermaine has it all typed
330. Yeah,
Jermaine has it all typed up. He's got it all typed up. Maybe I said 330. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, Armando, if you got to run, man, I appreciate you listening to our story. I think it helped just to let us tell you a little bit. I know Jermaine may want to tell a little bit, so we're going to hang out. I do have one more quick one for you. Pat, you weren't here for this, but it was the funniest thing I can remember from the entire hunting camp. Jared, my main hunting buddy, and Berg, who's the camp chef, awesome guy. He had a tag as well. I don't know if did he fill his tag, Pat, or no?
He didn't. He had a couple close encounters. Well, when my son and I came back, because I went to Idaho with Jermaine for 9 days, and then left Jermaine up there to finish up his season in Idaho. I came back and I took my son out, and Berg was back at camp, and he had a lot of close encounters. He had set up a couple spots where he got close to elk, but just didn't play out right. But we got into a lot of elk, and we actually, my son and I ended up hunting 100 yards from my camper.
Oh, no way!
The elk were going crazy. That big hill behind camp. There was a hill right behind where the fire pit was. It goes straight up the hill.
Yep,
that's where they were. There was multiple bulls up there, multiple cows, and my son walked around the road and we got on him a couple of times. I had about 100-yard shot at one, but I didn't sling an arrow at 100 yards. But it was a good way to end the season too. So unfortunately, we didn't get the fill, but we made it. It was good and it was special.
Okay. Well, let me tell you my favorite memory of beyond killing a bull. Like that trumps everything. But let me tell you my favorite memory from camp. Jermaine, when you were telling people how to call, Berg was telling Jared, my buddy, and I've said this on the podcast before. Jared is a terrible caller, absolutely terrible caller, like the worst caller I've ever experienced in my life. We've Tom, what's his name? Tom Deasing with Mile High Hunting Calls or whatever.
Tom, I love Tom.
Yeah, Tom did a lesson with Jared, and he's like, I don't know what you're doing wrong. Couldn't figure out what this guy was doing. He's like, you're just bad. So Berg tries to teach him. And so Berg, and I saw you do this, Jermaine, but like you go like can you elaborate on like that, like through the teeth breathing that you do?
Yeah, so a lot of people say that they'll say you want to make a EU sound or something like that. But if you put the top of your tongue to the roof of your mouth and try to blow air through that, you can't. And it won't make a sound. But if you pull your tongue off the top of the roof of your mouth, you'll start slowly hearing air come across the top of your tongue. That's all you're really doing. So you're taking it from your diaphragm and blowing it over your tongue to hit that latex to blow it off. And it'll sound like this. It's really like that simple. And once you're able to do that, man, you're going to be money. You'll be able to make a sound. And that's where we want to get.
Perfect. Thank you. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about stories. And so here's the rest of my story, right? So Berg is explaining that to Jared. He's explaining exactly that. He's like, I know the Jermaine Hodge recipe for calling. Like, this is what you do. And so Jared goes, okay, I could do that. Puts the Jermaine Hodge Phelps game call in his mouth and tries to do that and inhales it.
Oh,
and it's stuck in his throat. And
what's happened? What?
I didn't hear that one
about this.
Yeah.
Berg?
It was just me and Berg. It was me. Ask Berg. It was me, Berg, and Jared. And I'm like talking how like, Jared, we could do this. We don't need world calling champs. I just stocked that bull anyways. But if we are going to call, you got to learn. And he just like, he takes a big breath in, like he's going to do exactly what you just said, Jermaine. And he just chokes on the call.
Are you talking about Jared or talking about Berg?
I'm calling about Jared.
Jared.
Oh, Jared choked on it. Oh, okay.
Jared choked on the call. And like he spits the call out onto the floor and is coughing, and Berg and I are rolling laughing.
Awesome.
It was the funniest thing.
I missed that story.
He choked on a Hodge.
Oh. He choked on a Hodge. He choked on the Hodge, which is something Pat's done before, I think.
No.
What? I'm confused right now. Okay. Well, Armando, thank you, man.
On that note, yeah. Hey, you guys. I'm really happy for all three of you guys, all five of you guys that took part in it. But for the three of you, kudos to each of you for having such a, it wouldn't have been the same without all three of you being there. I know that. I'm really, really happy for you guys, and it was an honor to be here to hear this and to kind of share a little moment of it. So thank you guys.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on too, man.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, you guys, I'll catch up on this Idaho one later.
All right, buddy.
Okay, Jermaine, did you drop that bull off, or Michael, did you take it down?
I dropped all the bulls. I dropped it off.
Michael took it down.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, boys, like honestly, if I were to pick whether I had the 8 days with you boys in camp versus harvesting the bull, I'd pick the 8 days with you guys in camp because that was fun as hell.
Yeah.
And then that's what it's about to the listeners. It's like, who cares if you harvest anything? Have a great time with great people. Work hard. It's not about just getting drunk and messing around. It's about trying to accomplish the harvest. but doing it with great people is more important, I think, than anything
That's
else.
right. 100%, man.
And
100%.
now that we're done with my elk kill, because screw that, whatever, that guy's gone. Jermaine, do you want to tell us about Idaho? Do you want to tell us about your Colorado moose? Like, what else you got for us? This is a bonus episode.
Let me start off by saying Idaho was like I'm gonna blend both of these stories in, and I won't go into super big details. But what I will tell you is Idaho is humbling. If you haven't been up to the northern Idaho and hunted, you will get your butt kicked up there. And that country is steep and deep, and it is thick and nasty. And the first day that I was up there, I was like, wow. Ooh, this stuff is nasty. And it ain't high like Colorado where we're going to walk miles, and we're going to walk miles at, 10,000 to 12,000 feet. It ain't that. You're going to drive roads, and you're going to dive into something so nasty that you wish you was back in Colorado hiking at 10 to 12,000 feet.
Hiking Telluride or something crazy or something stupid.
Yeah, so it's only a couple places in Colorado that I can compare that to. And one would be like Telluride. Telluride's steep. Vail is steep. And then you get into some of those deep canyon areas like your Montrose and stuff like that. But I tell you, it was very humbling. Well, it started off where it wasn't going very well. We weren't getting a lot of bulls answering, and it's super hot there, very hot. So then we had three other guys there outside of me, Tony, and Eric, and I said, hey, we need to split up, and this is how we're gonna do this. We're gonna find these elk, and then we're gonna come back together, and we're gonna conquer this together. Well, the first morning that we did this, I went in with one of the camera guys, and sure enough, I find a bull basically right off the road. And man, when they tell you these bulls, when you call them in, they're gonna be on your lap. They're not lying. They're gonna be in your lap because they can't see through that stuff. So if the wind is right and everything's good, they're gonna be in your lap. And
shooting windows were like 10 yards,
10 yards.
Way.
Super close.
10 yards, Michael. I missed 2 bulls at 10 yards.
You missed them?
Missed
them like a branch?
Hit a branch. Yep.
Thick.
It's thick. And
it's like our dark timber with bare brush under the dark timber.
Yeah. Lot of undergrowth.
A lot of underbrush. Highest elevation was 5,000 feet. We were in them at 4,000, 5,000 feet. Camp was at 2,700 feet.
So I was hunting with my good friends Eric and Tony, and I'm gonna tell you right now, my aggressive style was not really gelling with them. They were more of let's call these elk to the road, which I was perfectly fine too if that happened. But these elk were in these deep, nasty pockets, and we didn't get into a lot of like super bugling elk. We got into a group of bugling elk that were sounding off really good. I've been in the rut fest where, you can't, it doesn't even matter what you say. But these elk were rutting, and they were rutting hard in this one area. And I get in there, and man, it's elk everywhere. And I tell the boys about it, and then Tony had a stomach bug for something, might have ate wrong or whatever. So he stayed at the camp the next morning. I took Eric back in there with me, and we didn't even get out the truck, and they were bugling like crazy. And then I'm just skimming over the surface of this whole story. But then we get into those elk, and we get into a lot of elk that morning, and that evening, I think we took that evening off and went back in there the following morning, and they were just still going nuts. And Tony was like, "I'm gonna stay up here and call," and I just dove in and went nuts. I'm not. I know my aggressive style. If they bugling, I'm going. And we got into so many different elk in there. And anyways, well, they wanted to change plans and go down to some lower country that we heard about. And I didn't want to leave elk. I didn't want to leave elk that we've
Leave
already
elk
found.
to find elk, right?
But
Yeah.
I wasn't going to argue with it. It's new to me. I said, all right, we packed up camp. We went down lower. And now we're down to one camera guy because Pat and Jess had left. And now we're down to one camera guy. And, I said, well, I'll go with him. We'll send the camera guy with you two guys. And sure enough, I found one elk that wanted to play. And, man, it happened like it was. Man, I forgot my phone. I left my pack. All I needed was my bow and release. And I cow sound off this logging road and and I grab my bow. I cow sound again. He bugles again, and I just dive down after him. And that was some old logging stuff that they had logged already some years ago, but it was a lot clearer, so I could make a 30-yard shot. And that's what I ended up doing, is making a 30-yard shot on that bull. And he wasn't the biggest bull in the woods, but I wasn't really caring about that. I was caring about, can I get it done up here? And anyways, I shot this dark horn 4x4, and he played the script how it was supposed to be played. And I was second guessing my shot, so I pulled out that evening. We went first thing back in the morning and found him piled up probably about 150 yards, maybe 125 yards. I clipped the bottom of his heart, and he bled. He bled the whole time, but it wasn't enough to kill him on spot or kill him, really quick. But he had went up and piled up. I don't imagine he lived more than maybe an hour past when I hit him.
Gotcha.
But I'm gonna tell you, man, that country is tough. And then we hunted 15 days straight, and I did everything in my power to make sure that the group's morale stayed really high, because the bulls were not acting like normal elk. They were not in the rut. They were not doing, we found one pocket of rutting elk, and that was it. And it could have been
probably just one cow. Yeah.
Yep, one cow or two in there hot, and it fired up everything in the area. So, but I will tell you, man, that country is tough. I turned and burnt from there after the 15 days. I left on the 30th, like after the morning hunt. I drove through the night 21 hours. My last 2 hours were the toughest, man.
I bet, man. That's a long drive.
And on the first, the camera guy was flying in on the first to meet me here in Colorado.
A new camera guy for a new hunt, right? For your moose hunt.
Exactly. And I got here and I called them guys. I said, I was calling Pat that morning, but then that evening I told Alex and Pat, I said, man, I'm gonna need some rest. I got here and it was light outside, and I got my second wind and I started working because I knew I had to reset. And I was like, nope, can't do it. I got about I don't know, maybe 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. After a 21-hour drive, I got here around 7 a.m. And dude, I said, no, I got to get a few hours naps. A few hours, it was probably 4 hours. I got up and started working again. And I called them and I said, man, listen, I'm going to need some rest. I'm not sure if I'm going to get up in the morning or wait till the evening. I said, but I'm trying to shoot for getting out on the 2nd of October. Anyways, I said, just chill on out. Pat, take care of Alex, boom, and I'll make everything happen. And I shot Alex a text message. I said, hey, I'm on the way. 24 hours rest. I'm on the way. And I said, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go do this. And anyways, we got up there on the 2nd of October. And I said, man, we got everything out of the camp and got everything set up. Pat set that camper up for me. And I shot the rifle to make sure it was good. And I was like, well, let's just go out here and look. And he said, well, if you want good footage, we're probably going to have to wait because this storm started rolling in. I said, man, we're just going to go out here and look. Put everything in the truck. A look turned into a hunt. Because you remember when we went back to back camp? You remember when we went to back camp and we park?
Where everyone pooped.
Yes, sir. I actually want to remind the listeners real quick of day 2 of my elk hunt when a moose spooked my bull. Also, what was it? Day 7, the day before I shot my bull, we were made a run on an elk, and then a moose spooked another bull on me. That same bull as the bull we're talking, or excuse me, same cow. That moose cow blew up 2 of my hunts, and that's where we are. Same area.
Well,
Remember
where you tried to hold Jermaine's hand?
Remember where you tried to hold my hand early in the morning?
That's where the cow was.
Tried to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, what are you trying to do? Hold my hand?
Oh,
that was the first morning with the headlamp,
when everyone was dropping deuces, and you apparently you poop with your headlamp off. So I didn't know you were out there.
No, he uses the light of the moon.
So we had full moon like that one morning, and I said, well, I don't need a damn headlamp. All I gotta do is make sure I'm clean. And sure enough, I go out there, no headlamp, and man, it probably was about, I don't know, 5 minutes later, I hear crunching through the woods, and I'm like, who's sneaking up behind me?
Well, I'm trying to find I'm about to go. I'm trying to find my spot, Jermaine. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go. I didn't know you were out there.
I looked back and I said, hey, you trying to hold my hand?
I'm just laughing, dropping a deuce, leaning back on a tree.
Everyone's out there pooping. There's 4 of us. Everyone's laughing at me.
That's damn near where that cow was standing. That cow was standing damn near right in that spot.
So that meadow that's right there, that's exactly where she was. And
you were laying bait for her that night, it turns out.
Yeah, we was just baiting her up. And that meadow where we parked that truck, that's where she was. And we pulled up there, and I said, oh my God, that's her. That's her. So from where we originally seen her is about a mile away. And I said, that is her. Because I remember the calf being so big. And I was like, that's her. But this time she had a bull with her. And man, I said, Alex, this is about to happen right now. You better be rolling. And so we pulled past her, stayed on that logging road, and went up there and parked higher, kind of where we walk in. And we parked and got stuff out and whatnot. Sure enough, man, made a 75-yard shot on her. I dropped her right there in the meadow on day 1.
That's
not
amazing,
even
Jermaine.
1 hour, 30 minutes of hunting.
30 minutes of hunting. Yeah.
For a man that put in 30 days of elk, you deserve a 1-hour moose hunt. That's all
I was hoping for that, and it happened, and I was like, oh my God, I got a little emotional. I said, man, people don't understand the work that I put in all leading up to this point. I was like, between elk hunts, and I said, I'm crushed. I went up to Idaho and freaking jackknifed my trailer twice. I just beat my truck all to death. I was like,
I said, transmission, didn't you? Or the something on your truck?
Radiator. That was
radiator. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Radiator went on me. I jackknifed my truck twice up in Idaho. I went in limp mode on the highway because it was, user error. I had to pull over, reset everything, and then go back, and it was just a nightmare. And then to top it off, I come back within 24 hours and I kill a moose within an hour of the hunt. and I wasn't even hunting. We were just going to look. So it worked out.
Yep.
We'll be able to share that story later on. But it worked out really good, and then that night, oh yeah, and I got to use my winch on my truck for the first time. I've had that winch for like 3 years now, and I got to use that winch for the first time, and I drug the winch out probably, I don't know, 50 to 75 yards, and I winched her up to that old logging road that we drive on. Um, I winched her up to that old logging road, and we was able to take care of her on the road instead of in the weeds. And then it just poured down, raining on us. It was so cold. It snowed that night on the mountains. Next day we woke up, it was just snow all over the peaks. So some of those peaks that you were walking, Michael, they were covered with snow.
Yeah.
Covered.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's such a great.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been happier. Like I was like, I knew you were hunting the beginning of October, and like the fact that like October 3rd, you're like done. I was like, you deserved it, man. You deserved it, especially for the amount of days you put in for me, the amount of days you put in for Idaho. Like occasionally you just need an easy one. I haven't found that easy one yet, but you deserve it more than anyone I know.
I can't believe you didn't talk about Dead Man's Gulch.
Oh man.
Oh gosh.
That's
back to Idaho. I thought for sure you'd talk about Dead Man's Gulch.
Oh, hey Michael, we went into an area and it was fine getting in there. Hold on, everything happens for a reason, right? We went in there. The cameraman, one of our camera guys, falls in the creek with the camera. It was like it was so horrible. And then at the very end of all this, we got to get out of this nasty mess. And it's elk in here and all this shit. And we get down to the point where I'm leading way on out of here. And I get down to this cliff where we'll try to get back down to the trailhead. And I'm like, stop. Do not come this way. Do not. Cliffed out. And it was straight down off rocks. I said, we got to go back hard right. We got to go back hard right. And then my buddy Eric, he took the lead on the hard right side, and it still was so nasty and sketchy. Hold on. And then we get down to the very bottom of all this. Basically, all of us are out of water. I grab my canteen, fill it up, and my filter was an old filter. And
6 years ago.
Yeah, it was not good. And I filter this water. I drink this water, and that night we still got a 1.5 mile hike out of here. We get through this nasty stuff, and we get to the trailhead. Straight up, we get to the trailhead, and that night, all right, we're cool. We're just not gonna go back in there. We gotta find a better way to get back in there. And that night I ran a fever so bad. It was cold at nighttime. It got cold where you could see your breath really good. I woke up and I was stripping clothes off. I was like, oh my God. I said, what is going on? And I didn't feel sick, but I was running a fever. And I said, damn, I was just sweating. So then I told everybody about it the next day. Then Pat was like, man, I bet it was that water. And then I said, guarantee you it had to be that. I thought I had COVID. I was like, where did I get COVID? We've been out here in the bush. And sure enough, the next day I was just praying that it didn't happen again. And I ran a fever the next night and was like, okay, I ran this fever for roughly right around 2 nights and it broke over. But I think I got it from the water. I got a little bug from the water.
No shookies. No shookies.
No shookies, no nothing, none of that crazy stuff. I just ran that beaver fever.
Yeah. Well, I think first off, like the whole hunt though, it led up. We had to drive the truck for like 45 minutes to get to the spot. And then we unloaded the ATVs. Then we had to take the ATVs like 7 miles in. And after we got off the ATVs, then we hit a trailhead. And then we had to hike in about a mile and a half. And then we had to drop down. We had to cross this river like 3 times. And every time someone crossed the river, everyone fell in the river except for me. And everyone, Jermaine fell in.
It's an important point. Pat didn't fall.
Fell. Yeah, I didn't fall. But then we start getting frustrated. Like, well, what are we gonna do? We hear an elk, but it was nothing more eerie. We're sitting up on this trail before it drops down and gets in the river. And Jermaine just, starts doing a little setup real quick and, cow call, cow call, and throws out a bugle. And then all we hear is, we hear a bugle in the distance, but then we all hear is a pack of wolves howling. And it was like, oh, and I never experienced that because, we ain't got wolves yet here in Colorado, but
yeah, thank you, Oregon. We will soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Oregon. But it kind of, and that, I think that played a big part too, like these elk were, they were talking, but those wolves definitely play their role as well. And they were in some nasty, steep stuff. So I think it gives them an advantage to maybe be able to get away, and the elk definitely took control of that area. But we went straight up a freaking hill, vertical climb right up on an elk trail. Jermaine ended up finding 2 sheds. We get into a huge bull. And then we're starting to lose light and we have to get out of there. So, and we're on an elk trail. We're not even near the dang trail anymore. So that's why we dove straight down. And he sold it short. Like, I was sliding on my butt for like 30 to 40 yards and couldn't stop. That's how nasty. I'm grabbing tree branches. Our poor buddy Jesse just had knee surgery, or one of our other cameramen. And he's like, he got his leg kicked out. We're sliding down this hill, and it's far. We're going down, and like Jermaine's yelling, "Don't come left." And I'm just sliding down a hill, like, well, I'm going wherever I slide. And we eventually get down off this thing down in the water, and it's cliffed up from the river. So we can't go up to get closer to where the trail does go. So the only way out is a straight vertical climb. Like, they're literally climbing this thing, and we're grabbing little tree branches, praying, "Please, little tree branch, hold my body." And like, literally climbing hands and knees. It's not a joke. Like, it was like, I even had to say, "Perfect, please, God, just let us get out of here." Like, this is like stuff. One person falls, they could take us all out. Like, people could die. It was bad. And then we get to the top.
Your explanation versus Jermaine's. Jermaine's like, it was humbling. It was
no,
humbling.
well, Jermaine's always right. Jermaine was behind everyone. He was so worried about everyone in the group that he wanted to make sure he was the last one out of this hellhole. And then, of course, we get to the top, and I had to do just like I did for you. We had to put some Rocky music on. And the last 2 guys that came out,
you didn't have to do it, but you did, and I appreciate it
because it was a triumph. It was a triumph.
We were sliding down this hill to the creek bed.
Oh my God.
And luckily, when we went down the hill, we went left. So one person would go down and go left. So Eric went down and went left. I think I was behind Eric right away. I went down and went left. By the time I went left, I heard boulder. And this giant boulder, it probably weighed 45, 50
boulder.
pounds.
I could have sworn you were saying boater, isn't like a rowboat, but boulder.
Motorboat.
North Carolina accent coming out. Sorry.
Yeah, go back to North Carolina, Jermaine. All right, keep going.
And this boulder was rolling down the hill, and I said, "I'm clear." And I seen that thing run down the hill and crash into some other rocks. I was like, "Holy smokes! If that would have hit one of us, that would have took us out.
Game over.
It would have been game over." And they call that place Dead Man's Gulch for one reason. You better know what you're doing when you're going in there.
Well, it's the key is you stay on those trails and you fight to get back to those trails, because we went off the trail to get out of there and get back to the trail, and it was one of the hardest things. Top 5 hardest stints I've ever had. I could breathe mostly, but if I was in Colorado, they'd had to come get me. I wouldn't have been if I was at 11,000. There ain't no way I would have got out of that. There ain't no
That's
way.
awesome, man.
That's how bad it was. And then we had about
Yeah.
another mile plus hike back to the ATVs, and then about a 5 to 6 mile ride on the ATV, and then back to the truck. Then we got to load everything up, and then my pack got run over that day too. That was fun. So I had a pack that got destroyed by someone's truck. Yeah, so that was an interesting one. Dead Man's Gulch.
You guys had a hell of a season, man. You guys had a hell
That
of a
was a
season.
rough day.
Woo, that was a rough day. And Jermaine said, I ain't going back in there ever. And I never heard Jermaine say that. There was elk in there. So I was like,
there's at least 2 places I went with Jermaine that I was like, I ain't going back there. But it's funny to hear Jermaine say that, man.
But hey, well, we had a couple of rough days. It was kind of, we split up then, and then Jermaine's like, we may have to go back into Dead Man's Gulch.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience. Seeing new terrain, new elk.
Yeah.
Hunting with different people too, other world elk champions. It was fun. It was different.
It's a cool experience, man. I was jealous. I was like, come on, guys, get better cell reception and post something, because I'm living vicariously through you boys. Because when I left the Elk Woods, I was missing it immediately.
Yeah.
That being said, I was happy to be back with my family, of course. But yeah, September is fleeting. You only have so much of it. So, but boys, man, this was a lot of fun. I've taken up way too much of your time, but what do I expect from any podcast with Jermaine besides 3+ hours?
For sure. You're going to expect that from me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man, gentlemen. Well, why don't we do this? We'll wrap this thing up. Let's start with Pat. If you want to share any Instagram, social stuff so they can follow you, and then we'll go to Jermaine after that.
I don't even know what my tags are.
Well, just go with Colorado High Altitude Hunters.
Koha. Yeah, Colorado High Altitude Hunters. That's different, buddy. Yeah, Koha, Colorado High Altitude Hunters. Follow us, like us. We're looking to add a lot more, some really good footage on our YouTube. So we're trying to grow that a little bit more. So there's some good stuff coming out. We're going to repost a video from a hunt we did, last year on there, plus this year's footage of our elk hunt. Your elk hunt will be put on there, and Jermaine's moose. So we're excited to get that out to you guys. So we'll start sharing that as well. And of course, follow Jermaine. He's the man. He's our guy.
Yeah. And I'll put links to Pat's Instagram, whether or not he knows what it is, or ever post there, and Colorado High Altitude Hunters. Yeah. And Jermaine. And so, Jermaine, where can they find you, man?
Well, it's at Pat Littrell 1313. But if you want to find me, it's Jermaine Hodge _Colorado.
Is that what?
And then you can always, you can always find us on Koha too as well.
Perfect. Well, gentlemen, thank you. This was a ton of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Littrell 1313. That's what it is.
Littrell. Okay. Well, I'll make sure I get it right. Show notes. Don't listen to either one of these guys. The show notes got it right. But thank you guys. I appreciate you guys taking a ton of time tonight. Never mind the 8 days you spent in the woods and you had to put up with me. I really do appreciate it.
That was fun, man. You made it fun too.
It was the most fun elk hunt. Like I said earlier, regardless of harvest or not, it was the most fun elk hunt I've ever been on. So thank you guys.
Definitely, brother.
Oh, absolutely, man. We'll do it again.
I hope so. All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
All right, guys. That's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. A little bit of an experiment here. So if you feel like letting me know how you feel about this one with kind of a longer format, a little more impromptu, more people, let me know. Hit me up on Instagram, shoot me an email, go to my website, whatever. I'd love to hear what you guys think, and I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I have enjoyed telling it. Sorry if we had too much to drink or, have a little bit dirtier mouths than you expected, but it is what it is. So thank you guys. Appreciate you again for tuning in, and look forward to putting many more stories out for you in the future. Thank you.